All right. What is good, everybody? Someone asked, Slaughter says, is this really the last Iron Banner? This is technically not the last Iron Banner. But let's be real for a minute. With the Destiny 2 population going the way it is, this will likely be the last Iron Banner where you could play and have fun. So, I'll give you a good example. I tried to load in and play a comp match earlier this week, and the queue time timed me out because there's just not enough people playing comp. Someone says, so clickbait. This title reads, look, you read the title, it says, the last Iron Banner in Destiny 2, parentheses, next one will likely be unplayable. That's literally what the title says. What's good, M-Bull? What's good, Rain? What's good, Dennis? That's some crazy work like that. There's nothing clickbait, you just got to read. I mean, it's a conversation that was going on Twitter as well, right? So it's like people were saying, it was a big conversation on Twitter today. If you weren't on Twitter, it's fine. But people were saying this might actually be like the last Iron Banner because there's just, the population is going to be pretty rough next time. So this might be it. This might be it. I mean, you might be able to play next time, but you're going to get the really long queue times, matching the same people, matching cheaters, you know what I'm saying? The population is going to be significantly lower the next time Iron Banner comes around. So keep that in mind. The next time it comes around, it's going to be like more than a month from now, right? Good luck. Good luck. With the way the Destiny population's gone, it's going to be trouble. It's going to be big trouble. Not to mention, most people will get everything that they need in this time frame right now, you know? So it's going to be a double negative. What's good, though? What up, Lord Wooly? What's good, Tony Habusa? I get it. I've been having to wait for players to jump on board for a while now. I hope you're wrong. Well, it's not about... I'm not going to be wrong in that... Like, you might be able to play Iron Banner next time, but this is like the last good Iron Banner. Like, this is like the last day where it's like actually... like decent population, you know, low queue times, you know, like you can go look at the population charts right now, see where we're at with this one. Like, this is a good day to play Iron Banner right now. You should play it right now because it's about to be brutal, right? We're at 45,000. Yeah. It's good, Lord Wooly. Missed it? Did I miss the sub? 57 months? Let me see this. Let me pull this up. I was trying to pull that up, and then I had an error. See here, recent events. And it is Lord Wooly, the tier 1, 57 months. Zam, it's been way too long. It has been a long time. Thank you. Dusty forever, dude. Hopefully. I wish, dude. All right. We're pulling this up again. All right. Every sub equals we're going to delete 5 things in the vault. RIP to 5 things. We're taking it out. We're going to clean our vault 1 sub at a time. Appreciate those 2 sub. Do I get to pick the 5 items? That would be quite the troll. That would take too long. We're just deleting the first 5 that come up. The first 5 that come up are gone. I deleted every gun in my vault outside of craft and exotics. That's not a bad strat. There's a lot of good god rolls though, so you'll miss out a little bit, but for the most part, you'll probably be fine. What do you mean last? It's every 4 weeks? All right. So we'll talk about it as a video here. I'm going to do a video about it. Let's do a video. Let's clarify for everyone. All right. That way people that see this can understand. All right. Here we go. Here we go. Let's put this down for a second. Here we go. Here we go. Let's put this up. Is that working? What's going on here? Why are the alerts not going off? Did I delete the alerts? I must have deleted the alerts. All right. No worries. This is potentially the last Iron Banner in Destiny 2. Not literally speaking, of course, because there will be an Iron Banner event every 4 weeks as it goes on a hiatus and comes back. But if you look at the Destiny 2 population charts, you'll notice that there has been a pretty substantial decline. Of course, there's no more updates. It's the end of service. So the population is getting pretty low. We're down to the 40,000s right now. And if you multiply this times 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, who knows where we're going to land 4 weeks from now, right? And so what does this mean? This means that the next Iron Banner that does come out, it ain't going to feel as good as this one. That's for damn sure. So if you ever enjoyed Iron Banner, if you want a last hurrah, I'd recommend logging in, playing in the last 24 hours of this week's Iron Banner, because this might be the last good Iron Banner left in Destiny 2. The next time it comes around, the population will be lower, which means the queue times are higher. If you don't know, I did a video recently where we loaded into comp and we just straight up could not find a match. There's just not enough players in there, right? Like this is a natural thing that happens as the population dwindles for any game, especially in the respective playlist. So Iron Banner a month from now or 5 weeks from now, right? It ain't going to feel as good as this one. So this might be the last Iron Banner, I would say. We don't know though. I mean, maybe the population holds out, but I wouldn't risk it. I'd play as much as you can and enjoy it while you can, because the fall off is going to be brutal. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Do you think this is the last Iron Banner, or do you think that the next one will still land? All right, there we go. It'll feel better than the 6K peak on Marathon. This is true. Unfortunately, Destiny will one day have a 6K peak, though, probably, right? As much as I hate to say it. Destiny will one day, you know, whether 6 months from now or so, will one day have that. Sag. Hell, think about 5 months out, yeah. Oh my god. Hey, what the hell? Dude, Jade Rabbit is such a plague right now. I need to put that damn thing on. Oh, did I just fall off the map? Oh god, that's embarrassing. What just happened to me? The This guy with the jade rabbit floating in the distance. This guy is an actual troll, dude. Good lord. What the hell? What is happening? This guy is just flying around the damn glaive. Once Gears of War E-Day comes out, you think so? We'll see how well Destiny retains its population. So far it's done really good since the June update, but... Stop doing that. What the hell? I need a damn shotgun on here. Put this on for now. Everyone on the other team has a damn glaive. What is happening? This guy. Stop it. He just keeps going to the same spot every time. Without hesitation. He goes there without hesitation. He will only go to that spot, Dr. Disco. This thing is disgusting, dude. Jade Rabbit is... Now that I've used it, I see why everyone's using it. This makes perfect sense. Good lord. Apparently I need Jade Rabbit and a glaive. We're waiting for the Monarch's waiting here too. Me and Monarch are sick and tired of this guy. That's fucking funny, dude. He keeps getting people. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. They likely disable artifact perks in casual and Iron Band. You think so? Dr. Disco, he is persistent, man. He will continue to jump up there. He will not be stopped. Damn, that trust just clapped, man. Those floaty warlocks, yeah, they're enjoying it too much. Put a well down in there? God damn. What? How does that hit me? There's no way that hits me. That shit got fucking tracking on it? That's fucked. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh shit. My bow is kind of crazy. Where are you even going, dude? You drunk? The fuck? Oh, good lord. Dr. Disco. Look at him. He won't stop. Go kill Dr. Disco for the 14th time. Ugh. I'm gonna put on ACD feedbacks. I just thought about this. Like, what am I actually doing here? ACD feedback. There we go. This will get rid of him. You guys like, what the fuck did you put Worm God Crest on? Okay, I had the ACD feedback ornament on those. Threw me off. These guys have like some infinite special ammo shit going on. How do they have so many fucking glaive shots, bruh? Like, what are they doing? They all have glaive shots. What are they? How are they generating so much special ammo? What do they get, a new cheese? How, a winter bite? Oh my god. Good lord. Jump back up again, Disco. Jump back up again, I dare you. Jump back up again, Disco. Good lord, alright. Think they'll disable that stuff? That'll be interesting if they do. How's Iron Baron treating you? It's my last time. It's the last probably day in Iron Banner, and I'm getting destroyed, dude. We got Glaive Gang out here with infinite special. It's crazy. I fixed my loadout. The Glaive Gang is out in full swing. This one. So you really think this is the last playable Iron Banner? I genuinely think that the population will be bad. Like here, I'll give you a good example. Let's find out. Let's do an experiment, right? All right. Is this the last playable Iron Banner in Destiny 2? Will the population drop off between now and 5 weeks from now when it comes back affect Iron Banner's playability enough? We're going to test it this week by launching some comp. All right, launching comp. Let's see what the queue time is. I could be wrong. We're starting the stopwatch. See how long it takes to find a match in the old comp. We're here for the ride, baby. Enjoy the last Iron Banner. You know, I'm not saying it to be negative necessarily. I'm not saying it because I want it to be the last Iron Banner. I freaking love Iron Banner. I weirdly love all the Crucible in Destiny 2 just because it's where I've spent most of my time, if I'm being honest. Like, if you guys know me from the Destiny 1 days, all I did was play Crucible back then. Hey, we found a match. That was weird. I don't know what that was about. Let's launch again. It seems to be getting worse day by day. It is getting worse day by day. Unfortunately, the population will be getting lower. I have been experiencing long load times. Exactly. I loaded it into a comp match on Tuesday this week at reset during like peak playing hours, kind of peakish playing hours, right? Because it's Tuesday in Destiny. And yeah, couldn't find a match. How long does Sony have? I don't know, man. They're cooking their reputation, that's for sure. They're lighting their fan base on fire. Hopefully the console companies and their absurd practices, their greed, and their perspective that you, the consumer, are borderline brain dead. Hopefully that actually does affect them in the long term, and people leave and find other gaming companies that care for them and, like, you know, respect the consumer. You know, Steam and others. There's others that do a lot better job than Sony, that's for sure. All right, this is what we're talking about. See, we're at 2 minutes now, queued in. 2 minutes. Okay. This is what Iron Banner could look like in 5 weeks from now. As much as I hate to say it, I hope not. But the population will be much, much lower by then. We're waiting patiently. We're going to find a match. There's got to be someone out there. I hope. Everyone got mad at me when I started saying that this week's Iron Banner would be the last week of Iron Banner. The last playable week, specifically. They said, Lucky, that's clickbait. Lucky, you don't know what you're talking about. Well, I'm in the comp playlist right now, to give you an example. It's a weekend day. It's 5:43 p.m. on a Sunday. And this is how long it took me to find two Guardians now. This is how long it took me to find 2 people in comp. All right? Now, comp only requires 6 people. Iron Banner needs 12. Iron Banner, admittedly, is a lot more popular than comp. Let's be real. Someone said maybe they're all playing Iron Banner. Maybe. Maybe. That might be our only hope. But either way, the point still stands that Iron Banner's population will be significantly lower next time around, 5 weeks from now. Because Destiny 2's overall population will be significantly lower. And so if you really want to enjoy Iron Banner, play it this week. You know, you got like 24 hours left before this week's over. And then, like I said, 5 weeks from now, it'll probably be like, this will be your Iron Banner experience. Maybe not next time, but maybe the time after that. Who knows? If this is what it was like in Iron Banner, though, could you imagine? We're at 5 minutes. 5 minutes. This is how long it's taken us to find 3 other people in comp. 3 other people. It's not because I hate Iron Banner. It's not because I want to see Lord Saladin die. It's because I want you to actually enjoy Destiny 2 while you can, before the low population hits us once again. A lot of you weren't there during those low points in Edge of Fate or Renegades. You left. You played other stuff, as you should. But I'm telling you right now, it was brutal. For months, you couldn't even find a raid group at all. Fireteam Finder. You know, a lot of the Crucible playlists were, you know, dry, or you start to match a bunch of cheaters and people who are across the world. So, like, connection issues are happening where, you know, let's say you find an Iron Banner match, right? Well, you load in and suddenly there's not even 12 people there. It's 4 people on your team and 6 people on the other team. So you're like, great. Everyone's name is written in some other language that you don't even speak, you know? One guy's flying around the map with infinite heavy ammo and a golden gun. That's what the next Iron Banner is going to look like. You know what I'm saying? That's what the Iron Banner after the next one's going to look like. They ain't going to be like this one. This will be the last good one, in my opinion. I could be wrong, but the way it's looking, it's probably the last good one. So enjoy it. Look at this. 6 minutes and 40 seconds. Still haven't launched a comp match. Crazy. If you don't make a match happen under 10 minutes, they launched it. That's good. If they don't make a match, it took us about 7 minutes to get a match, by the way. If you don't get a match in under 10 minutes, it gives you an error code. So, one day, it'll be that unplayable. That'll be a sad day. Probably not months. Probably till... That'll be like... I don't even know. Maybe 2027. Not sure. Maybe Christmas this year. I don't know. We'll find out. Sad. It is sad. But it's also like... It's just to let people know. More than anything. Let people know now is your time to play. Play now or regret later on, because it ain't going to be good later on.
This is a game with pure combat potential. Make me proud.
Muscle Bob Buff Pants. I mean, it is all a lot of Jade Rabbitage out here. You guys got Vex on that guy's smoking some crack. Damn. Just when someone's standing there? Fuck, I should be dead. That sucks. Get you back, Muscle Bob. Hell yeah. I'm missing all my shots. My aim sucks. I am deceased. Dude, this Jade Rabbit is an actual... This is crazy that this ends up being the final meta. I don't know why they would overtune this for the last update. Of all the exotics, you said Jade Rabbit? Scout Rifle meta? Ah. I should have just ran. The play there was to actually run strategically. What? Damn it. Guy's fucking sword ammo. Lost the lead. Oh no. I'm throwing so bad right now. Where they at? So peeking shit. These guys literally refuse to peek anything. He's 1 HP. God damn it. Shoot that guy, he's 1 HP. Oh my god. I literally made all 3 of those guys weak. Ugh. What an actual disaster, dude. No way. No. I shouldn't have jumped up there. Now my team's gonna get wiped, probably. Oh, they got one. That's good. They got more sword ammo. Great. Really looking forward to that. Stewie, we gotta kill. Nice. Stewie's just hiding with his sword ammo. God damn it. Got that angle behind us. We should push while they're low in numbers. No, no, no. No. Fucking fumbled that jump. I don't think this is worth it, bruh. You're just getting me farmed. Rough. They're just gonna pop a super on us. Ah. That sucks. So armor per Dasha gone Tuesday? What's that? What are you doing, bro? Just fucked up everyone on their team. Bro, what the fuck, dude? That hammer would not hit him. It's so obnoxious, dude. I'm like throwing these hammers and they just won't quite connect.
Your enemy is pushing for victory.
Somehow I doubt that any of these people are at rank 0 for comp, by the way. Pressing X to doubt. No, I shot him. There's no way. There's no way. That's so fucked up, dude. I literally shot him right there. Damn it, dude, I'm stuck here. Rip. It's probably gonna get power ammo. Rocket ammo, that's not what we want right now. Scared the crap out of me.
Defeat is not surrender.
Alright, well that was it. My comp experience. Really? I did the worst? God damn, I'm terrible. This guy right here did 27 kills? What the hell? That was the Jade Rabbit guy. This guy just lived in the Jade Rabbit. That's crazy. We will have a higher population than Marathon, yeah, true. This is true, chat. This is true. All right. We got some news to cover today, chat. We're going to hop into that now, actually. Let's do this. I think it's go time. Now we covered the Iron Banner and the comp shenanigans. Let's do this thing. Here we go. Here we go. Patrick has gifted 440 jewels. Thank you very much, Patrick. Appreciate that. All right. Dude, this is so funny to me. Destiny 2 players are looking for someone to blame when it comes to the PvP meta that Destiny 2 was left in. If you don't know, it is Jade Rabbit, Jade Rabbit, Jade Rabbit, and a side of Jade Rabbit. Subclass Jade Rabbit, everything Jade Rabbit. This top trending Reddit post says, "It's unreal out there, gang." Mercury is using his final moments before getting fired to turn Jade Rabbit into a primary ammo rocket launcher. You can't pin it all on Mercules, let's be real. But it's pretty funny. And now that we know there will be no more hotfixes, especially things that like adjust the sandbox, that ain't happening. It's just a forever rabbit meta. Kind of a weird way to leave Destiny 2 off, right? I kind of wish they would have left it a forever Lord of Wolves meta. That would have been my dream. Can you imagine if they buffed Lord of Wolves back to its peak days? Oof, that'd be so nice. All right. All right, we got this. Okay. Videos being dropped in Drive right now. Wish I could play multiplayer. I'm just so bad. You know, you just gotta put on a Jade Rabbit, dude. That's it. Jade Rabbit, and you're good. All right. Can you believe it's actually over, chat? It's actually over. We were talking about this in a video earlier today. And it kind of feels surreal, right? Like Destiny 2 is actually over. Kind of crazy. So yeah, someone was Destiny unsustainable or Bungie unsustainable? Just play, you'll get better. Yeah, the more you play, the better you'll get, but there is a certain peak that you'll reach, that's for sure. Dude. R/marathon hate is peak comedy. This is a top trending post right now, which is what the Blasters, which if you don't know, that's a reference towards the marathon players. That's what they call them, the Blasters. This is what the Blasters think when Sony says, quote, high user retention rate. Steam charts, 5,000, 6,000. PlayStation, 9,999,000. 24-hour peak, 1 marathillion. This is what they see, dude. Oh, high retention. Sony can't lie. Oh, man, it's funny. This guy right here, this is the retention. He says, I think I like Marathon. In the last 2 weeks, he's played 95 hours. In total, he's played more than 1,000 hours of Marathon. That's a lot. This is the retention right here. This is the retention that Sony was talking about. This is it. So I might want to check on this guy. He's gaming. All right, next up. The death of a game marathon. This one's a big one right now. We'll get to that in a minute. We got this. We got marathon players are once again crashing out over the Steam charts. Who would have thunk? If you don't know, the last episode of this saga involved a deep-seated conspiracy theory where the charts are not accurate. I don't know. I don't know how we got here, but now we got quote, only 5K players is not how concurrent player counts work. Yeah, bro. Tell me. CCU is concurrent does not equal daily players. Yes, that is correct. No, that is correct. People log in and out all day. Okay, so I guess you're saying that, people logging in and out multiple times would skew the numbers. So we got Little's Law being referenced here. Daily players is the average CCU times 24 divided by average session length. Oh gosh, we have a new mathematical algorithm being created specifically for marathons retention and Steam charts. Marathon's average CCU is 4 to 4.5K with sessions around 1.5 to 2 hours. That's 50,000 to 70,000 daily players on Steam alone, which I'm not sure if he said this thinking this was going to really, you know, blow everyone out of the water because, yeah, even though, like, there is obviously a lot more people within a 24-hour period than there is at any 1 hour in the day, 50 to 70,000 is still not that impressive, especially for the size of the game it needs to be, right? That's not counting PlayStation or Xbox, which we know to be about, you know, less than half of that. Learn to read a chart before you tweet about one. Take a basic fucking data analysis course. Oh no. Now we have to take a data analysis course just to look at the fucking Steam charts and see that the game's struggling, apparently. It's crazy. Someone said, this is the next level of copium, brother. Yeah. So when it says there's only 5K players, it means there's only 5K players on Steam at that moment in time. Like that's how that works. Like when we pull up the fabled marathon Steam charts here, okay, we hit the big refresh. Look at this. Oh my God. You know, when you look at any given hour, that's how many people are online on Steam at that moment, like in that hour. Like that's how many people are online. And it changes every hour. And you can see the change as it goes between the popular hours and the less popular hours. But yeah, this is representative of 1 hour of time, not 24 hours of time. So yeah, if you multiplied this number by effectively 24, I mean, it's not going to be exactly that because there's highs and lows, but if you took the number and multiplied it by 24, yeah, it would be a lot bigger. If you took it and multiplied it by, you know, the weekly concurrence, it would be even bigger than that. The monthly, even, you know what I'm saying? Obviously. But, you know, this is how many players are online at this moment right now. Like right now, there's 5,400 on Steam. And then if you include console, you got like maybe 8K people total. So it's every hour. That's how it works. I don't think you need to go sign up for a college course on statistical analysis. But I guess so. Maybe you do to understand marathon. And the people who are playing are obsessed and they're playing 45 hours per week. Yeah, there's definitely, I mean, the people who are playing are probably playing a lot. Like you can see, like it goes down to 2,000. So there's probably like a really hardcore group of people that do log in and play some really long play session times, but there's just too few of them, right? There's too few of them. And if these numbers are way too low for a game like Destiny to live, you know, you can imagine that Marathon's going to be, you know, Marathon's a cheaper game to make than Destiny for sure. But when the game has, you know, right now Destiny's got like 45,000 and Marathon's got 5,000. It's like you can imagine that it's you know, it's not that much cheaper of a game, right? It's still Bungie. So it's make no mistake of it, this is really bad. And obviously we got the news recently that Marathon DB was shutting down as well because the player population was too low. So it's like, you know, what are we even arguing against anymore? Like the fact that there are still people that like defend this and think that this means that the game's doing fine and that this game has a very bright future ahead of it is baffling to me. Is actually baffling to me. Got the delusional people. I just wish I could see in myself what these people see in Marathon, you know? If I could believe in myself half as much as these people believe in Marathon, I'd be the fucking president by now. You know what I'm saying? I'd have $1 trillion like Elon Musk. If I could believe in myself even a tenth of what these people believe in Marathon, I would have accomplished everything. I'd have fucking Olympic gold medals by now. The 5,000 Stockholm Syndrome Bungie fans have coped themselves into playing 45 hours a week. I can't stop running. I can't stop blasting. The game will die if I stop blasting. Never stop blasting. Someone said, just a reminder that this game has an actual ranked game mode. And the 5 streamers still playing this game will put their rank in their title as if anyone gives a fuck about that shit. Are they really? Are people flexing their marathon rank? Let's pull this up actually. Who is streaming marathon right now? Surely not. Right now, streaming marathon. You've got Staycation, Seraph, Sepper, Scarrow, Elvin. Holding down the Darsh, dude. The Dire Marsh, dude. Together we are strong. Illegal Cradle and Faction XP farm. Dude, they're having fun, dude. They're living their life. They're doing their thing. Let them do their thing. Let them play marathon while they can, you know? Let them have their fun, I guess. I don't see anyone flexing their ranked in their stream title, though. Scarrow's a shill? No, I don't know. He just likes marathon. It's fine. I don't have a problem with that. You know? People, you like what you like. He likes marathon. You know, this guy's Seraph Max. This guy's always, we've covered a bunch of stuff. This guy's always playing marathon. Drewski's there, dude. Yes, sir. All right. He's a shill 100%. Nah, I don't know, man. I think if I were to call someone a shill or feel like they were disingenuous, right? That's the key to it. A shill is someone that, at least in my mind, is someone that's promoting something in maybe a disingenuous way. Like they don't really like that thing. They're just kind of doing it for maybe the money or because they're getting, told to or paid or they like the privileges or something. But I would put that closer to someone like a Shroud or a Burnt Peanut who they played the game for like a couple days, collected a bunch of sponsor money and then left, But like someone that's like someone that genuinely likes the game, it's like I'm not gonna, it's just like the game. What is the definition of a shill in the context of gaming? A shill is a derogatory term for someone who is perceived to be promoting, defending, or praising a game, developer, publisher, or company in a way that seems dishonest or financially motivated. So that's what it is. If it's dishonest or financially motivated, and I don't think they're passing money to any streamer under the table right now. As crazy as that would be. Originally, a shill was someone secretly paid to promote a product while pretending to be an ordinary customer. In gaming, the word is often used much more loosely. That reviewer gave the game a 10 out of 10. He's a shill for the publisher. Stop defending those microtransactions. You sound like a Bungie shill. Yeah. Yeah, it's the key is that it has to be disingenuous, right? So I don't know of anyone that disingenuously promotes marathon. Other than, like I said, like maybe Shroud and Peanut, and that's not to be mean to them, but like those guys showed up and they were like, we love marathon. This game's fucking awesome. And then they just never came back to play it ever again, which is like hilarious, right? Like, can you imagine? Imagine a world where you say you really like marathon, like it's the best game ever. You're addicted to it. And then you don't even bother to play Cryo Archive, the most well-developed map in the entire fucking game. Like, excuse me? How is that even possible? Like, how could you? That's like saying you really love Destiny, but you fucking, I don't even know what to say. What is that even? That's like saying you really love Destiny, you play it all the time, but you've never even beat a freaking campaign in it or something. You've never beaten a strike before. Like, I don't even understand. Like, there's only 4 maps in the damn game. You can't be like, I love marathon. This is my game, and then not even play the fucking 25% of the game. Like the biggest and best map there is. Like, what the hell? It's crazy. But I understand why people think that. People think that, they're obviously biased and stuff. That's more what I would lean towards is some people are biased. They like Bungie, right? This is something that you'll see very commonly referenced from the people that are called the sort of shills of sorts, is that they're they have a lot of friends at Bungie, right? people that they talk to, people that pass on information, people that invite them to all these community summits and these play sessions where you get to play the game early and stuff. And so for those reasons, because they have friends, it kind of creates this conflict of interest where people don't want to be critical of the thing that their friend makes, right? Like if Tony Hayabusa sent me a painting, right? He sends me a beautiful painting. Okay. Tony Hayabusa mails me. He says, "Look, Lucky, I mailed this to you. This is what I think a marathon character is, right? This is what I worked really hard on this for you, right? You know, I'm going to look at this and I'd be like, wow, thank you, man. I appreciate that, you know? Or I might be like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life. You wasted your time. That was dumb, right? You know, there's a conflict of interest when you're friends with people. And unfortunately, it kind of creates a bias where you're a little more biased to being polite, friendly, you know? Yeah, like Rudar made this like light back here. Got this crazy light. Where did I put that fucking thing? It's right back here somewhere. Back there. Where did that go? What the hell? Oh, it's fucking... I don't know where the heck that thing went. But yeah, it's like you make something, right? You want to be nice, right? That's the goal. And so I think that's where it comes from a lot of the people that are, you know, perceived as being shills. Right? It's because they, you know, they're just friends with Bungie. And it's very hard to separate that, you know, once you become very friendly with Bungie. Because, you know, your friends working on this game that you like and they make a new game or something. And you're like, you're just, you're biased, right? And it's okay. It's okay to be biased as well, but understand that people see through it, right? People see through the bias pretty easily. Here we go. Got a new video to talk about. Destiny 2 is peak when it's dead. Now this is quite the topic. The June update has breathed new life into Destiny 2, of course, but it's the last time we're ever going to see that. Let's see what we're cooking up over here.
As many of you guys know, I've spent several years on this channel picking apart Destiny 2's systems, from the power grind, the seasonal model, the content vaulting, the mediocre and lacking endgame systems at various points in the game's lifecycle, the cringy storytelling, and the loss of a true art direction compared...
One second, let me fix the audio here. It's like kind of quiet. More quiet than it usually is. I don't know why it's so quiet.
...compared to the first game.
Is there a way where I want to see if I can, like, increase the volume. Let me see here. See if I can find, like, a volume meter here. How can I raise the volume on a video that's playing on Opera GX? Sound settings. There we go. Yes, sir. That should do it.
As many of you guys know, I've spent several years...
No, it's still not loud. Why is it so low here? Oh my god. All right.
As many of you guys know, I've spent several years on this channel picking apart Destiny 2's systems, from the power grind, the seasonal model, the content vaulting, the mediocre and lacking endgame systems at various points in the game's lifecycle, the cringy storytelling, and the loss of a true art direction compared to the first game. The list goes on and on. But now that Destiny 2 has officially ended live service, ironically I think it might be in the best, most enjoyable state the game has ever been in. And that's not something I ever expected to say, but Bungie finally got the build crafting, the end game, the relevancy of all content, all to this sort of close to perfect place, at least from a gameplay point of view, which is honestly very impressive, and I didn't think it could be done. I sort of lost hope for this game several years ago, but today...
I will say that in regards to the buffing of various different things, there's a lot to do in the game right now. That sort of honeymoon period will probably fade away as the population gets lower and it's harder to find people and activities, but right now is definitely a good time to play Destiny 2. A month from now, 2 months from now, it'll get a lot harder, but definitely an incredible update. The June update is top tier for sure. The only issues I have with it, I mean, there's a few, but Jade Rabbit is kind of running wild in PvP. Aside from that, though, mostly good.
I want to go back and look through some of my old complaints and hold them up against what the game looks like right now, because the reason it got better needs more of an explanation than they just made XYZ system better. I want to dig a bit deeper into why each of these systems actually vastly improved, because I think it's pretty wild that most of my biggest complaints got resolved right at the game's end of service. So let's take a look at how the now dead game is ironically also in its almost best state ever. In the past on my channel, I've talked a great length about how power level grinding was the only thing to actually do at endgame at a certain point, and that very flat level of progression, in my opinion, is one of the bigger reasons why endgame play felt very hollow for several years of this game's life cycle. There was no meaningful choice in how you approached your progression. Everyone just sort of funneled towards whatever the most efficient grind was, and the community just sort of collectively piled on into whatever activity that was. And it turned the endgame into this very weird, sort of chore-like endgame, instead of meaningful personal progression and challenge. But with the game's final major update, that entire power grind system is sort of irrelevant. It's currently capped at 550 power level, but the climb to the power level has been redesigned around activities that let you customize difficulty on the fly, and you can dial up a mission with a specific grade before you even launch for it. And if your fire team member has a higher power level than you, you just scale up to their power level. Power level is almost irrelevant, not totally, but
the power scaling with your teammates is crazy.
Almost irrelevant, and that's a good thing. It should never have been the focus of endgame progression like it was for so many years in this game. It's a very genuinely different design philosophy right now than what we used to have. The system that I was always criticizing in my old videos. This current system allows for a gentle, more natural power progression if you want it, but also
I have some mixed opinions when it comes to power progression, so feel free to cancel me here and grab your clips. But I feel like there is some forces working against each other. So one is that just simply make number bigger is very monotonous and lame. But if it's a thing that's working in the background that sort of complements all the time that you invest, I don't really mind it much. Like, I don't mind that you do like incrementally get more powerful. It kind of adds to the overall like vast systems in the game. And it is reminiscent of the original vision of Destiny. So like, even if we did say like, oh no, fuck power grinding, remove that shit, it's whack as hell, whatever, right? If that's your opinion, perfectly fine. Destiny originally launched with it though. So if you don't like it, there is an element of like, that's Destiny. Like, that's the game. Does anyone remember Forever 29? Yeah. Dude, we were logging in and playing Vault of Glass, trying to get leveled up. The power grind back then was crazy. Leveling your weapons back then was crazy. And admittedly, it was a little too much. I would end my days playing Destiny by roaming around Mars, farming relic iron. It was bizarre. It was weird. You actually got some certain routes though. When you got into the certain route, you'd pick up quite a bit of those. It was kind of fun in its own way, but it definitely was way more monotonous than anything you've seen in Destiny 2. That's for sure. If you weren't there, then you won't understand. But if you know, you know. So my belief is that power leveling should be something that does exist in the game, but it should work kind of in the back for the most part. And it should be this like nice thing that's kind of like a feather in your cap that you do get to maximum power because you played the game enough, and every activity you beat or clear gives you slightly more powerful gear, weapons, and armor until eventually you hit that power cap. And I actually did like it where we consistently got power increases throughout time. And I know people are gonna be like, "What? Really, Lucky? You're advocating for, you know, the real rat race here?" And again, just that's just what I've always felt like was Destiny. I know that Destiny is a 12-year-old game now, and modern games right now, you kind of want the fun of the game to be about the experience, right? You want the activities, the mechanics, the interactions with other people to be memorable. You know, no one ever really had an extremely memorable moment from making your power level go from, you know, 358 to 359 or something, right? Like that's not it's not really that memorable of a thing. But as a background system, as something that kind of complements the rest of the game, I have no issue with it. I genuinely have no issue with it. And I also think we should have never reset the power number. It's kind of a weird thing in general. It would have been cool to see it go up and up and up and up more and more and more. I liked that. It also kind of gave you a timestamp. Like when you saw someone's power level, you could see like, okay, that's what they were playing during season 13, right? Like that's when the power cap was around there, etc. So personally, that's how I feel about power level. If you feel differently, feel free to comment down below. But I personally think that it's a key, integral part of Destiny that existed on launch of Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. And so I don't know. I don't think removing it was necessarily the right play either. I think that kind of led the community to really disliking it. They're like, oh yeah, we can just remove this thing. Let's just do that. Right. So Bungie removing it and then bringing it back, I think that was more problematic than helpful, personally.
Most of the progression now is horizontal, which is the best kind of grinding for an MMO style game like this. Another big complaint I always had was content becoming worthless after 3 months. Probably my biggest recurring gripe. I made several videos on this almost every season of the game, where Destiny 2 would ship with a new season, get everyone invested in a very specific loot table, armor sets, weapons, things like that. It would be tied to that season's activities, and then 3 months later, none of it mattered anymore. The next season's gear would outclass it instantly, and just a few months later that content would be removed entirely from the game. And I want to be specific about why this felt so bad, because I don't think it was power creep alone that explains why this system pissed me off so bad. It's that the entire conversation around the game moved on before you'd even finish chasing what you wanted. If you weren't a streamer or a full-time gamer with no life, it's almost like you could not keep up with this type of content, while at the same time it was drip-fed in a very annoying way. The grind, the achievement, the progression never got a chance to breathe with this sort of model, and it basically just made you stressed out, I felt at least, for those 3 months of content during a new season.
That's the part that's a double-edged sword about Destiny, and I think the part that's hard for a lot of people that play Destiny, and I put myself in this category at times, which is that Destiny is like this really grindy game, but there's certain seasons of your life where you're not really feeling like grinding a game, you know, like maybe you're going through something, or maybe you're working more, or whatever, you know, you get a girlfriend, something like that, right? And so you just don't have as much time to invest as you did in that one season when you really went hard in Arrivals, or in, you know, Forsaken, or maybe the Taken King or Witch Queen or something, right? You just don't have that much time. But the game should always cater to that, even if it feels like it's too much, even if it feels like it's FOMO, because there is that audience out there looking for that. And they will just leave if you don't give it to them, right? They'll just leave. They'll just like, okay, there's nothing to grind in Destiny. There's nothing to grind in the grindy game. Okay, I'm gone then. I'm gonna go play, you know, Warframe or Deep Rock Galactic or some other Gooner game, right? So I do think that that's a part of the magic of Destiny, is that it's this game that you can sink so many hours in. I understand, like I said, it's a double-edged sword, because if you don't want to for a given, you know, season of your life, perhaps, then you're like, you kind of feel like, ah, well, I'm going to fall behind. But thankfully, there's always the catch-up mechanics that we know Bungie puts in there at the end of every season. And even if you missed a season, like you said, you know that the next season offers new things that basically overpower last season's stuff anyways. So you can just skip the full season if you really want, and you'll be fine. Like 99% of the time, you will be fine. So there's always ways to work around it. Part of the issue is that people really like Destiny, and then they are kind of a completionist or a perfectionist, and they really want to play everything and get everything in Destiny, but they don't necessarily have the lifestyle that can match that because, you got work, you got family, things like that. So it's like, I understand that, but I don't think that the solution is water down Destiny or make the game less grindy. The solution is just, if you can't play, you can't play. Come back when you can, in my opinion.
Seasonal content, I feel like, was one of the biggest reasons I couldn't stand logging into this game. Running on FOMO, running on the treadmill, just hurrying and cranking through shit, just because I didn't want to miss out before the next 3-month content drop. But because Destiny 2 is now officially done receiving new seasonal content, that entire problem structurally just kind of can't happen anymore. There's no next season coming to invalidate what you're grinding for right now.
Well, actually, there is something like that. I hate to be so negative here. I feel like I'm being way more negative in this video. I mostly agree with his opinions on his videos, but the new thing that's coming is kind of similar to the last thing. So previously you had the FOMO because the next season was coming, right? You're like, oh, I got to get these weapons completed, these, unlock these crafted weapons, etc., or unlock all the exotics and the catalysts or whatever it's you're doing, right? Finish your campaign. Lots of different objectives that people are running, the seals, titles, right? Gilding them, perhaps. You had all these things that you could do, but you wanted to get them done in a certain time. And so now, because there's no future seasons in Destiny, you're free, right? Well, wrong, actually, because Destiny 2's population is going to dwindle down to a stage where it will be unplayable. In probably like 3 or 4 months, it's going to be absolutely brutal. Like, I'll give you that. 2027 is going to be a very rough year for Destiny 2, my dudes. Like, so that FOMO is still kind of there. We haven't experienced yet. We don't know what it's like to enter into a world where you try to log in and be an activity and it's just not available because you just can't find people, right? Like, imagine what Destiny 2 is going to be like in 2028. Yeah, like the game's going to have like maybe less than marathon players at that point, right? Like, it ain't going to be too good. So I do think that there is kind of a still FOMO effect happening. We just aren't aware of it yet. People aren't talking about it because like, oh yeah, I can play the game at my own pace right now. You can, but remember, it's a multiplayer game. And once the population gets too low, the game does have a sort of unplayableness to it, unfortunately. And this plagues a lot of these games that have low population, Marathon included and countless others.
Armor set, every weapon, every activity that exists in the game currently is what's going to exist going forward, which means for the first time, chasing specific loot, taking your time to progress at the pace that makes sense for you, all feels so good and natural. And it's similar to why Destiny 1 currently feels so good, where there's nothing going to be changing about the game, the content that's there is what's going to be there for you to play and grind through. That's why Destiny 1 is still fun to go back to, because it's a looter shooter start to finish, you can take it at your own pace, all the content's there, all the YouTube videos and guides are relevant, and same thing right now with Destiny 2. That 3-month expiration date, or even 6-month or 1 year, whatever it is, isn't going to affect the future of the game. And this is the part that I again find almost ironic. The thing that used to make me the most frustrated with this game, the constant obsolescence and FOMO, is now completely gone because the game is basically dead. They can't sell me the next season anymore. Ending live service accidentally fixed the treadmill problem better than any patch note ever did, and while the game was still being actively monetized. And I think that really says something about how badly these systems were designed on purpose by Bungie in the first place. The obsolescence wasn't a side effect of updating the game, it was the entire point of updating the game. It was built this way on purpose, to make you stressed out, have FOMO, keep you addicted and keep you hooked. The new season, the new chase, the new reason to log back in daily were all reasons I stopped playing. The more they tried hard to keep me hooked, the less I wanted to be hooked. But now I feel like with this update, they've just made everything relevant, everything is fun to grind, and it's all at my own pace. I feel no stress. And because I have that choice now where I'm not bound by the 3-month timeline or Bungie's timelines, it feels so much better to grind. And again, this ties into just the overall seasonal drip feed complaint as a whole. Again, I've been very vocal over the years how tedious it was to have the story beats drug out, the activities time gated, rewards very slowly drip fed from a weekly or monthly basis. People who care about the story, they would have constant cliffhangers. And again, with live service gone, that incentive is also gone with it.
I feel like the story release model as well, this is another thing that was criticized a good amount. And to be fair, when you log in and there's like 10 minutes of story and then you're like, well, that's it for the week. That was definitely lame. But the idea of the story and what happened sometimes, not always, wasn't the best execution from Bungie. But the idea is that you give a story and you do the week by week thing. And then there's meant to be like conversation and speculation about what would happen, right? I feel like this was best encapsulated, at least for me, in some ways, with like Lakshmi and maybe even with Crow, where week by week you're like, oh, what's going to happen next week, right? Like it was kind of fun in that regard. If Bungie was able to execute it better, they would like really leave you with a big cliffhanger each time, and like I said, then that leads to commentary videos and speculation and people wondering, all right, well, what do you think is going to happen next week? And then eventually you get there and you get to see what happens next week. And that's kind of the fun of it, right? And that cadence is pretty common in media with entertainment. You got your weekly TV shows and stuff. But in Destiny 2, there was a lot of seasons where they really executed that poorly. And it felt like you logged in, you listened to a couple of voice lines or something and played a mission, and that was it. Very little progression at all. So not always the best execution from Bungie, but that's why I can see why people complain about it, but I understand what the vision was, but I don't think it was executed the best.
Seasonal drip feed model was slowly killing this game, in my opinion. And I think it's why we saw such a massive decline in players over the years. It's just because there's no way to keep up with it without it becoming stale. I don't think Bungie could have completely overhauled it to be anything more different than what it was, which is just a very slow, drug out, monotonous type of grind. And I'm so glad it's gone now. Again, it's ironic that the game had to die in a way for this to be the case, but it feels so good because it's gone. You don't have to worry about it ever again. Next, I want to talk about the Armor 3.0 and build crafting in the game. This is a problem I never thought Bungie would be able to solve. For years, I've always been begging for armor set bonuses, more build crafting potential that works with exotics and subclasses, and for far too long in this franchise's history, you pretty much cared about which exotic you had equipped, and almost everything else was pretty much interchangeable. Your armor didn't matter that much, and that's simply not true anymore. With Armor 3.0, every single armor set in the game, from every raid, every dungeon, every destination, Vanguard, Crucible, and Gambit set, they all come with real 2-piece and 4-piece bonuses that always are passively active. No activation, no toggling, no pain in the ass, very shoehorned, sort of specific type of bonuses. Just genuine, good, build-defining effects that are tied to what you wear.
This is definitely a net positive for the game and a big W from Bungie to put this in the final update.
And it's not just a few of them. We're talking dozens of these bonuses across the game now are really potentially good for any sort of build you're going for. You can go all in on one set and get the 4-piece bonus, or you can split it up and get a 2-piece from one set and the other set. Either way, for the first time, the specific gear you're wearing is a real build decision instead of a very basic stat optimization spreadsheet, and that feels so good. This is something, if you guys remember from years and years ago, I was begging for in Destiny 2. I wanted set bonuses so bad. I love them in other games, and it feels like this game should have had them the entire time. And I'm happy to say that I really do like a lot of these set bonuses. They're pretty good. And the armor rework is only half of why this feels so good right now. What actually gets me pretty pumped and is keeping me coming back almost daily now playing this game again is how many of the exotics and how many different subclasses and the combinations in between have genuine great build potential. It's not just a handful of meta exotics anymore carrying every loadout. There's a huge portion of exotic weapons and armor across all the classes that have some kind of built around identity. Obviously, there are still going to be the S tier and like maybe your lower F tier garbage, but for the most part, almost anything can be used with very specific setups and perks to be at least very fun and pretty effective. Same thing with the supers. It doesn't feel like there's just one correct super per subclass anymore. There's some real diversity in how you can build around very specific supers. Honestly, right now, some of the most fun I've had is just sitting down and theory crafting a build, picking exotics I haven't touched in years, finding armor sets that complement them well, and then choosing a subclass configuration that ties it all together. And that used to sort of feel like a chore because it wasn't as in-depth and it just felt like you were picking whatever was the current meta that was on every other YouTube video. But now I feel like there's so many different options that you can just totally do on your own, and you don't need any other guide to help you. You can just kind of fuck around with the systems and find something that's awesome. And this is pretty much what ties right into why the end game feels really good right now too. Because of the armor set bonuses, build crafting, and those kinds of things, when you get those sets from raids, dungeons, and weekly featured activities, there's now a good reason to grind them, for the armor especially, but even for weapons and weapon rolls as well. New dungeons, new raids, old raids, everything has specific armor sets you can grind for. There's catalysts to earn and exotics that have gotten reworks over the years from old content that are worth chasing again. The focusing from Pinnacle Ops and Arena Ops and those kinds of things makes so many old weapons now relevant to farm again. In so many older activities, this is again something I begged for in my old videos. I always wanted old content to be made relevant once again with updated loot pools, and that's exactly what's happened here. You aren't just running old content for the transmog set or something like that, or to fill out your collections tab. Now there's an actual purpose to grind current weapons and armor sets that are relevant for new content as well. And that's pretty much
These are all really good additions, I agree.
Entire through line that connects everything I've talked about in this whole video so far. You have this permanent content plus genuinely powerful build defining gear across all activities that stay worth doing. And again, I want to emphasize, I did not think Bungie would be able to get build crafting this right, get the end game this enjoyable and relevant, and drop so much content that we've wanted for so long in this final update. But somehow, they surprised me. I was not hopeful that this was going to be some epic, awesome conclusion to Destiny 2. And in some ways, there's still issues, and I'll talk about those maybe in a later video. But they absolutely have nailed the game, and it's in such a good spot right now. And I want to be careful not to oversimplify this into live service bad, finished game good, because that's not quite the full picture here either. Destiny 2 obviously needed many years of iteration to arrive at the current systems it has now. The build crafting depth, the sandbox balance, the sheer number of activities available today didn't exist at launch or even several years ago. Obviously the content vaulting, that's a separate topic. A lot of that shit should come back, but they have brought several things back in unique ways like Pantheon and so on. But none of that would have been possible without years of live seasons funding the studio's ability to keep building. So, yes, Destiny 2 had to suck in some ways over the years for them to iterate to this point. But then it's almost ironic that because they don't need to focus on selling more content for the next however many years, they were able to update the game in such a way that they said, we're just kind of putting it out there and we're putting it in like a better state because this is it. There's nothing to kind of like drag out and drip feed over time. This is the end. This is the final update. Here it is. And because it could just be what it needed to be like that, a final good update without any plan to sell you on a future, that's why it feels so good. Now, many of you, like myself, left Destiny 2 several years ago. After so many frustrations and complaints and problems and missteps and fumbles with this franchise, I do think Bungie genuinely lost a lot of great fans. The business model, the seasonal model, content vaulting, frankly just bad storytelling. But if you were like me, and you left this franchise because you were pissed and fed up with a lot of Bungie's bullshit, I have to say, I do think this is genuinely the best time to come back. Who knows how long the servers are going to stay on? I'm going to guess they're going to stay on for quite a while, if not indefinitely. Destiny 1 is in a good...
I've been talking about this a little bit, is how long will the server stay on? Anthem's stayed on for like 7 years, so you'd think like, if Anthem can stay on for 7 years, then this game better stay on forever, right? And yes and no. I'm not sure if it's going to continue on after Marathon dies, or maybe Marathon dies and they like give it a deadline of sorts. Sony is currently in the process of, systematically ruining their reputation with everyone, right? Like they are destroying their reputation in every way possible. They're no Destiny 3, killing Destiny 2. no physical discs in 2028. They ain't helping themselves. So I can only imagine that they just don't care anymore. And they're just doing whatever is monetarily the best for them, period. So if that means shutting off the Destiny 2 servers, January 1st of 2028, then that's what it is. I mean, I know it sounds ridiculous to even say that out loud because you're like, dude, no way. No way it would be that soon. But once Marathon dies, the only reason to keep these servers on is if it's making enough more money than it costs to keep them on. Because if it ain't, and there's no Destiny 3 being cooked up, then they don't care. There's no Marathon 2 being cooked up. There's no Destiny 3 being cooked up. And then Bungie as a company is completely gone. So from a money standpoint, it'll be interesting to see what Sony's decision is there. But man, there will be a lot of uproar when that comes out, right? Which is why a news like that wouldn't come out until, a year from now at most, if even.
Good place. It's been online despite it having end of service in 2016, 17, 10 years ago now almost. And that game's just been in a decent state ever since then. And hopefully Destiny 2 can stay the same way where they have this game set in this current state for years to come. I think it's a good place to be. It's not perfect. New player onboarding is still just a little fucked up. But if you're someone who played this game back in the day, you sort of understand Destiny systems, and it's been a while, I do think it's a pretty good place to come back to. To at least catch up and do the things you missed out on, certain dungeons or raids or things like that. I do think the build crafting is genuinely a ton of fun. That's probably my favorite thing so far. But let me know in the comments if you've come back recently, what you thought about it. Let me know if I'm totally wrong in this video and if my...
All right, there it is. That is November Hotel giving us a breakdown of Destiny 2 is peak when it's dead. And like I said, he brought up a lot of good points. A lot of people feel like the update was good. I agree. I think the June update was excellent. We don't know what Destiny is going to look like over the next few months, though, but we are starting to experience some of those ugly repercussions from, the lack of service to the game, right? The end of service. Bungie isn't there. There's various things that are being disabled. The population is obviously dwindling a little bit. It's getting lower. Earlier today, we tried to queue up a comp match, and it took 7 minutes. In fact, we recorded the whole thing. So if you don't believe me, there'll be a video up. You'll find it. 7 minutes to find a comp match. So you can only imagine that, a month from now, it'll be longer, and then 2 months from now, and so on and so forth. But we're going to keep playing until they shut the lights off. That's for sure. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Someone said, you being unranked? Think so? Think so? Think that's what it was? Source, they made it up. The ranked people said it was fast. Ryan says, imagine Iran has been cooking up D3, hence World War III. Ryan, are you smoking fentanyl right now? You got to get off the fent, Ryan. What the hell did you just type in this chat? Huh? As punishment for Ryan's insane take, I will be finishing the rest of the stream with this filter on now. This is the filter now. This is lucky 50p. Asmongold went in on Dirty F and Hippie, by the way. It's pretty nuts. Yeah, I can imagine. He probably went, he probably was absolutely destroying that. That situation's crazy. All right. The mass exodus of Destiny 2 players. They've found a new home. Really? This is news to me. I want to know where the Destiny 2 players are going. Where do we go now? Now that we don't get a Destiny 3, what is our new home as Destiny 2 refugees? Let's lock in and see what Identity Talks has to say.
I conducted a poll asking, since Destiny shut down, which game have you moved on to? I wasn't expecting anything groundbreaking. I figured the votes would just spread across a bunch of games. And to be fair, they were. People mentioned Warframe, Path of Exile, Escape from Tarkov, and several others. One answer stood out to me though, The Division 2. There were over 1,000 votes.
That's the real Destiny killer, or the Destiny filler. The Division 2. Hopefully the Division 3 absolutely delivers and cures me of my Destiny depression. Please.
Votes, and about 70% pointed to Ubisoft's 8-year-old looter shooter. Now, I want to make something clear because some people were getting a little bit triggered by the question that I asked in a poll. This isn't me saying Destiny 2 is shut down, because it isn't. You can still log in and play today, and plenty of people still are. Some of the comments reminded me exactly of that, but I also don't think that's really the point. Whether people have already left or simply thinking about what comes next, this whole entire conversation is completely shifted to something else. It's like an evolution. Players are looking around in a way they've never done before. And that wasn't only reflected in this poll. Over the last few months, I've been noticing more and more comments on my own videos from people saying things like, I just came over from Destiny, or I'm completely new to the Division. Thanks for helping me understand the game. Individually, those comments don't really mean much, but when you start seeing the same thing over and over, and then a poll with over 1,000 votes pointing in the same direction, I was beginning to wonder if something bigger is happening here. Ironically, this isn't a new story for me. Years ago, I made the same transition myself. I began with the Gears of War franchise, then played a lot of Destiny at its inception. I was there for the—
I mean, they got Gears E-Day coming out pretty soon. I feel like the Destiny 2 players, if I had to guess, most of them are playing Warframe right now. We saw a recent article come out where the Warframe higher-ups were saying, ever since Destiny 2 died, game's doing great. Come on over to Warframe, guys. So I feel like a good amount are going there, but the Division is definitely tantalizing. Why is no one playing Borderlands? Borderlands just completely gone? What happened to Borderlands? Borderlands 4 has 7,500 people. It still has more than Marathon. Think about that. Even this non-live service game that looks like it's completely flatlined, but remember, it's a box product game, still has more players than Marathon. God damn. I would much rather play Borderlands 4 than Marathon, not to be too mean to the blasters out there.
The iconic Gallowhorn, and then Might and Multi-Tool, also the legendary first raid, the Vault of Glass, and how broken the Vex Mythoclast was before it was nerfed. Eventually, I moved on to Division once that was announced, then released. Such a revolutionary time. I didn't think much about it. It was just another game that looked interesting. But looking back now, I think I was experiencing something that's been much more common in this live service era, because gaming isn't what it used to be. There was a time when buying a game meant exactly that. You bought it, you played it, maybe you beat it a couple times, and then moved on to what came next. Nobody expected one game to become the place where they spent the next 5 or 10 years, live service games completely changed that. Today, players don't simply buy games, they build characters. We learn these complicated systems and become part of these huge communities. Some of them diehard communities, and many of them are niche, but it's their niche. And we become friends. Then there's routines. You know, we spend hundreds or even thousands of hours in these ecosystems. Eventually, that game becomes really familiar and something quintessential to your actual daily lifestyle. And I think that's what makes moving on so different today than it was 15 years ago. So it's different. It's not like, okay, what game are we playing next? It's kind of like that because we have GTA coming, and then when you have anticipation of games like Arc Raiders, you naturally anticipate those games, but it's different now. It's like when you do anticipate these games, you're asking, where do I want to spend the next few years? You might not be thinking that actively, but subconsciously, that's what's happening. And you know, that's a completely different type of question and observation. When you've invested that much time into one game, you don't necessarily want the newest release. It's like you want something.
The idea, I think, from a lot of this is that you want a return on your investment, right? You're going to spend, let's say, $80 playing GTA or whatever, right? You don't want to buy GTA 6, spend $80, and then not care to play the game a week later, right? Like the goal is to buy GTA 6, spend your $80 or whatever, maybe 100 if you buy the expensive version, and then play for, God, I don't know, at least 3 or 4 months, right? At least 3 or 4 months to get your money's worth. And then you'll come back consistently with updates if you really had fun. It's a game that's going to be out presumably for many, many years. I mean, GTA 5 is like 13 years old now. So, GTA 6 will at least have that life cycle, if not, go on forever.
That feels stable or familiar, something that scratches that same itch that Destiny 2 did. And I think that's one of the reasons Division 2's been the topic of so many conversations, especially in that poll and in a lot of the comments that I was talking about. And in today's live service landscape, that may be more valuable than we all realize. Now, if you're one of those Destiny 2 players who found your way to Division 2, I happen to be one of those content creators who have played Division 2 extensively, so welcome. And I feel like I should give you a little perspective from someone who's been here since the beginning. I've been playing this franchise since the original Division, and I've spent the last 8 years.
The original Division, they called the Destiny Killers. Anyone remember that? They were calling it the Destiny Killer way back then. This might have been the first game that ever came out that people labeled as the Destiny Killer. It's funny.
Covering the Division 2. I've watched this game through its highest highs and some very uncertain lows. In fact, Division 2 has been supported by the developers more than twice the amount of time Division 1 has ever been. There was even a point where that wasn't something any of us expected. For nearly 2 years, during this time, the game was effectively in a holding pattern. Massive Entertainment and Ubisoft studios were spread across major projects like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora, Skull and Bones, Assassin's Creed Shadows, Star Wars Outlaws, and several others. Content for the Division 2 slowed dramatically, and for a while, many of us genuinely wondered if the game had quietly reached its end. And it was a justified thought. Then things changed. Support resumed out of the blue. New seasons returned and systems were expanded. Entirely new mechanics were introduced, and later on, prototypes were introduced. Suddenly, the game had a future again. Of course, that delay has raised another question that many longtime players still have today. Where is the Division 3? The answer is a lot more complicated than most people realize. Ubisoft went through restructurings with layoffs and project shifts and changes in how several of its biggest franchises were managed. They lost a lot of money, and to be honest, it feels like when I think about it sometimes, I look at their situation, I'm thinking, how are they even staying afloat still? There's enough.
Yeah, we looked up the Division, and there was like 5 devs working on it not too long ago. Let me double check this. I looked up how many devs were working on the Division 2, and at one point there was something like 5 devs. Is this accurate? So, yes, there is truth behind the 5 developers claim. No. Oh, no. The Division 2's revival started with just 5 people. That's it. After Ubisoft had effectively ended major post-launch support, a small strike team of 5 developers was assembled to restart development on The Division 2. Can we just have 5 developers on Destiny 2? Can you imagine? 5 Guardians left in the studio. From a studio that had more than 1,500, reduced to 5. Maybe that's what's happening with their incubation project right now.
History there to fill an entire video in and of itself, so we'll get to that in a later date. Conversation for another day. What I want to focus on is you, because if you're just arriving from Destiny, you're entering a game with almost 8 years of content, progression systems, and things to chase. There are hundreds of viable builds, exotics to collect, hunters to track down, legendary missions, incursions, raids, descent, the dark zone, countdown. Wow. When I actually think about all of this stuff, even though I'm a veteran, it sounds really intriguing when you think about it from a new player's perspective. Y'all got a lot of stuff to do. And then you have optimization, expertise, and now prototype gear. And if this all sounds overwhelming, it can be, especially expertise, man. All right, so this is where
The Division, again, I'm going there. People are going to scream and shake their fists at the monitors in a second. The Division would sell me so much more if it was first person. Why are we cursed with a universe of all third person looter shooters? Why? You know, I want to live in another timeline where every game developer is of the opinion that shooters need to be first person. If the Division 2 or 3 was first person, I would be grinding that like no one's business, dude.
this conversation gets kind of uncomfortable a little bit, but bear with me. Expertise is one of the game's long-term progression systems. Every weapon, gear piece, skill, and specialization can be made proficient simply by using it or donating duplicate items and materials. As you increase your proficiency across more and more equipment, your overall expertise level rises, and reaching the maximum isn't something that happens in a weekend. This is a literal grind, almost a second job, for real. It takes hundreds of hours of gameplay, countless resources, and
I can't do it again. I'm tired. I can't do it again.
willingness to interact with almost every system in the game, even for dedicated players. Now, I eventually reached expertise level 30 after realizing that that's just a personal goal that I wanted to reach. And this unlocked for me the latest progression system. Some people call it level 50, prototype gear. This gear allows you to evolve high-end equipment into more powerful versions with additional bonuses and new build possibilities with the addition of augments. It's opened the door to some incredibly creative builds, I can attest to that, but it's also sparked plenty of debate within the community. Some players love the added depth and experimentation, while others argue that it pushes the power creep way too far, making so many builds, gear, and weapons pretty much obsolete, which makes that previously optimized gear feel way less valuable. But hold on, I'm not going to act like this is something new in this live service era. That's the reality of this type of ecosystem, what it's evolved into. Because as these systems evolve, so does the meta. Sometimes that's exciting, or it can be frustrating. And eventually every live service game reaches a point where progression begins to feel like less discovery and more like maintenance. The grind becomes longer and the goals become smaller. You know how it could be like a triple time XP event, and then you see your experience level go up this much when it used to go up this much. It just starts to become this sort of grind that you don't want to be a part of. You're like, I'm over it. I'm done. When I was level 29 expertise, it took me so long to get to 30. It was crazy. So chasing that next upgrade can start to feel more like checking off a list than uncovering something new. But when
grind.
you get there, it actually feels fulfilling. That's what I'm saying. It's like love-hate relationship, because I really enjoy upgrading my gear to expertise. Because if there's a specific weapon or piece of gear that you want to make for a build's purpose, then you can find that gear piece or craft it and then level it to expertise, totally within your control. You can only do that if you're level 30. Yeah, it's bittersweet. So Division 2 is not immune to this type of feeling that almost every looter shooter or live service game gives. But here's the difference. If you're brand new, you aren't at that stage yet. You're about to experience everything that longtime players like me, who spent nearly a decade discovering one update at a time. What feels routine to us veterans will feel completely new to you. In a strange way, this might actually be the best time anyone has ever had to start playing the Division 2.
All right, there it is. That was the mass exodus of Destiny 2 players. Apparently, a lot of you are going over to the Division 2. What do you think? For me, right now, going into a franchise that's really like old and has a lot to catch up on, there's an element of, I'm gonna have to play for dozens, hundreds of hours to catch up. It's a little bit daunting. I kind of have that similar feeling when it comes to Warframe. Both games are great though. Division 2 and Warframe are awesome, but I kind of wish there was a new looter shooter dropping today, because with, Destiny 2's end of service, I would feel a little bit more energized to log in and play on day one, and be a part of all the journey and the updates as they happen, versus kind of starting in and being so far behind. There's something that's a little bit frustrating about it, but kind of depends on how much you really like the game. And again, I think for both those games, not to be too much of a first-person snob, but again, both third person, of course. Where are the first-person looter shooters? That's what we need. Someone typed in chat saying, first-person shooters need to be console exclusives to survive in the future. Well, technically, Marathon is a first-person shooter, has more people on Steam than on console. I think the consoles are dying. If I'm going to give you my real hot take, I think consoles are cooked. I think that PlayStation is literally burning their reputation as we speak. They are a dying industry because, I mean, do you really need that console? Like, do you actually need that piece of hardware? Think about it. Their entire business model is based on like an old system that's kind of not aging very well, right? These consoles are now going to cost over $1,000. They only serve for gaming, You can buy a PC and you can do a million other things on it. You can get work done. You can fucking, I don't know, farm Bitcoin. There's like a million things you could do on your PC, right? So, and Steam is free. You don't have to pay for a subscription. All I'm saying is Steam is the future. And I think Xbox, as you can see with their thousands of layoffs, it ain't looking good for them. It ain't looking too good for Sony. And I don't know. I think the console future is, I think console is going to suffer more than anything. Even though PCs are also getting really, really expensive because of the components, I think that people are going to lean a little more that way, because at least Steam and Valve, what they have going for them is that they are making consumer friendly practices. They're pro-consumer. Someone said, I tried to get back into the Division 2, but man, them hours to get that expertise up was just too much and pushed me away. Plus the grind of getting what gear I wanted, even when I focused, felt worse than Destiny's RNG. That's the problem with these grindy games, right? You got to play the same activity again and again and again. Starting in late is, it's tough. So I don't think I'll play too much Division 2 other than just to, mess around and try it out a little bit. I think I only ever played the Division 1. I'm trying to remember if I even tried Division 2. I don't think so. If I did, I played it for like one day. So maybe I'll jump in and try it out. But for the most part, I am waiting for the next big looter shooter. Whatever that one is, we will be there no matter what. And we will be grinding, because it'll be fun. If we have first-person shooters and third-person shooters, what would a second-person shooter look like? Yeah, a second person shooter is just like third person, but a little bit closer. I think it probably should be called second person, right? It should be first person and second person. The third person doesn't make any sense because then, like, does that imply there's a fourth person or a fifth person? You know, gaming is resetting as large companies are going under and independents are rising up. Yeah, absolutely. Consumers are getting smarter and they're getting more locked in, and also just like chat GPT and AI that's like educating people like way faster than ever before. You don't even have to use your damn brain anymore. And people are just kind of realizing, like, I don't know if it's really worth it to buy these consoles when I could buy a damn PC for a little bit more, don't have to pay the subscription, and then I can like use a PC for all the things that PCs can do, you know? Like, not saying that I did this, but I'm just saying that I don't know if you heard, but like the movie Odyssey and various others, they leak and you can, torrent them for free, just saying, on your PC. I'm not saying that I do that. I would never download thousands of movies completely for free. I mean, using my PC, I would never do that. But you can. You know what I'm saying? All I'm saying is there's a lot of cool shit you can do on a PC that you can't do on a console. So people eventually are like, yeah, maybe I should just like have a PC. But teach their own. Who's this? Exactly. This is a video breaking down the mass exodus of Destiny 2 players. Let me know what you think. Someone says, for the record, I would gladly download a car. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I feel like once you do the research into what a PC can do, like, if you can have both, of course, have both. But once you do the research into what a PC can do and what you can get online, you're like, oh, I mean, like, not that you need to listen to me, but I'm saying is like, you don't need to subscribe to like Netflix or Paramount or, 50 other subscription services when the entire TV show you're looking for is online. You can just download it with one click. I mean, not that I would do that, and I'm not endorsing that. And I definitely haven't done that for many TV shows. I definitely don't have an entire hard drive filled with terabytes of TV shows and movies. Definitely not. And like really high quality, like 4K resolution. That's not something that I would do. I pay for all the subscriptions. I pay for Netflix and Paramount and Hulu and I just pay. I got $300 a month in subscriptions. That's the play versus just getting them all completely free. Once you start to realize what you can do with the damn PC, you're like, hey, wait a second, I could just like save like a lot of money with this thing. I could just like not have to pay for like everything if I do it right. But yes, maybe a laptop. Yes, exactly. But teach their own, I understand. I like consoles too. I love the aspect of, click the button, click play, the game plays. That's nice and easy. Super simple. Thankfully, Steam is getting, more and more user friendly with time. It used to be, 5 years ago, especially, that it was like playing on a PC. It's like you have to do all this tech support stuff, right? Like your audio bugs out, your monitor doesn't correctly work, your GPU malfunctions and all this shit, right? But nowadays, fast forward to like the modern context, and like you can solve your PC problems pretty instantly. Like I had a PC problem the other day, and I just told ChatGPT, I said, ChatGPT, my PC is doing this, and it was just like, oh, just do this, do this, do that. And I was like, oh, and I just did exactly what it said, and I fixed everything in like less than 30 seconds. Normally, it would take me 30 minutes of searching a YouTube video or reading a forum on Reddit from a 4-year-old post explaining how to fix my audio issues because I have capture card streaming, right? So I'm streaming and I got all these capture cards and all these equipment and shit. I was like, normally this would be like a big 30-minute process or maybe even a 3-hour process if I couldn't figure it out. But now it's just like, nope, just done. Here you go. Problem solved. When did Marathon get the hive? What you talk about? I missed the event. Consoles have to become a money-eating machine to me. have become yeah, they have a little bit. I think that the subscription is really what killed the console for me. You guys can feel free to disagree, but like for me, I want to be subscribed to as little things as possible, mostly. Like when it comes to like the streaming services, I'll subscribe to like one at a time for, simplicity, for just like, don't have to pay for it. Or go download the movies or whatever. I'll subscribe to like one at a time, but I'll usually cancel the one and then subscribe to the other one or something like that, right? But for the most part, I don't want to be subscribed to like 10 different streaming services. You got all these bills and all these things and all these, it's got just draining your money constantly. I don't want that. So when the consoles decided that you have to pay for a subscription, when you have to pay for a subscription to use your console and that you can't access your games that you bought unless you pay the subscription again, I was like, I was like, why are more people not just like super pissed off about this? This is insanity. You're telling me that if I don't pay your subscription to Sony, I can't even play Destiny 1? Like Crucible? You can't play the Crucible. You can play some of the stuff, but you can't play the Crucible stuff. You can't play any of the online features. I'm like, what? I can't play Destiny 1 if I don't subscribe to PlayStation Plus? That's fucked up. That's just weird, That's just strange to me. And I feel like more people should just be like, yeah, that's just not, I'm not doing that. That's insanity. I've seen videos of PlayStation being turned into Linux. Yeah. I hate PlayStation Plus. Exactly. Exactly why I moved over to PC. Exactly. And in the long run, it will add up, that $10 or $15 a month. It does add up when you calculate a whole year of it, 2 years of it, 3 years, 5 years of it. And it does end up being worth it, I think, to swap over and jump to the PC gang. And I'm not trying to be number one PC promoter over here. I'm not selling you a PC by any means. Play your console if you like your console. I'm not here to change your mind necessarily, but I swapped over from console to PC like 10 years ago, and it was like the best thing ever. I was like, this is awesome. I was like, I'm never going back. I was like, I literally have a console only because I have Destiny 1 pretty much, and that's about it. If I had to play a game between the two of them, I would only play, Lucky 10 PC, exactly. The day they get Steam OS running on a PS5 will be insane. Maybe. Yeah, it's not going to work probably on PlayStation. Many companies are leading towards sub-services for everything. Yeah, most companies are doing that. It's just a smart strategy for consistent revenue. The problem is that Steam doesn't do that, and so playing on PC is just like cheaper from month to month, which is like, maybe they should be doing that. Like maybe it would be better for them monetarily, but since they don't do it, it's like the best consumer practice ever. So that's awesome, Imagine if there was like Netflix and Hulu and Paramount, but imagine if there was one of them that just had no subscription and had all the same shows, Like no one would ever buy that, right? Like think about it, or no one would ever pay for the other ones. Like if there was a thing that was exactly like Netflix and it had just a ton of shows and movies, but it was free and no ads or anything, everyone would be like, why would you ever pay for Netflix? Just go watch that. It's free, But there isn't anything like that, right? There isn't anything that's completely free, other than I guess torrenting technically, but you know what I'm saying? That's technically illegal, and I would never torrent, and I would never endorse torrenting or piracy on this stream. And I totally have never pirated myself. Never. I remember when Xbox Game Pass was an awesome deal. There is some, they do give you a good amount when you pay for it. Like, it's not like you don't get anything when you pay for it. Like, you do get something out of it. Don't get me wrong. But combining the hardware with the subscription, it's just, I think it just doesn't really, in the later years now, it's not as worth it now as it used to be. I think like 5 years ago, it actually was worth it because it was like fucking epic back then. It was cheaper and it had more, they were really trying to sell it. But nowadays, maybe not so much. I think the tides are shifting a little bit against the consoles. I think it's dead now. Yeah, they've looked at the number of Xbox Game Pass sales and it's declining. Like more people are like not interested. It's not working out. And so I just genuinely think that the console business is a dying business right now. I know they're making a lot of money, so it sounds absurd. They are still making money because they've just had such a literal chokehold on the games industry. But I think that overall it is a dying business because it's the wrong business model. And slowly with time, they're going to get outclassed and finessed by Valve and Steam more and more, you know? And so it just takes time, but eventually it will change. It's been crazy seeing how much it's changed so far though. And you know what's crazy is I can just I think it's crazy that I can launch Destiny 2 on my PC and I can just plug a controller in it. I basically play it like it's a console and you don't even know the difference. Like think about that. How funny is that sometimes, right? Like I could hand you a controller and put a monitor in front of you and unless you like, you know, click around a little bit, you wouldn't even know that you're on a PC or a console. You know, like unless you notice the higher frame rates. Like the lines dividing the two are so very thin now. Right? That's about it. The last thing that the console companies have on you, the last like literal squeeze they get out of you is the exclusives. That's it. That's all they have left. They're gonna use Gears of War to sell you an Xbox, I guess. You know, and it might work on me. I don't know. I'm gonna play on PC, but it might work on some. But most it probably won't. That's the last thing they have is the exclusives. If the console companies didn't have exclusives, like think about this, just lock in on this for a second. If the console companies did not have exclusives, how much worse do you think it would be for them competing against Steam? Think about it. Think about how bad it would be for them. It'd be horrible. Are you mostly competing against themselves, against each other, like the two consoles? Like they do a lot of crossplay with Steam, but generally it would be really bad for them. GTA 6 is bolstering Sony's numbers so much to push their case about going full digital. It's sickening. Have you been? What's good, Murray? Want to say I totally agree with what you said about having a console just because of Destiny 1. Same for me. I tell people that and they can't relate. They don't know what Destiny meant to us. That's what I'm saying. There isn't extreme hackers. I saw like maybe 10 the whole time I played Trials using software cheats. Oh, yeah, sometimes. It depends. Yeah, there are generally more cheaters on Steam, which is annoying, but I don't know. Zim, there are Zim cheaters on console as well, so it's kind of like, you know, pick your poison. It's hard to say if there's more cheaters on Steam or Zim cheaters on console. Like there's no hard evidence to prove one way or the other, but you know what I'm saying? There's always people doing something cheesy, I guess. At least Zim, even if Zim is like cheesing and giving you an advantage, at least it's like, it's not cheating is like you guaranteed win. Zim, if you used a Zim and you're still really bad, you'll still lose a Crucible match. Like most people should understand that. Like if you want to be good with a Zim, you have to be like probably like at least decent at the game already, and then you can learn how to use the Zim, which will take time. But for the average player or the below average player, if you were to give a below average player a Zim, like say you gave some guy that's like 0.7 guy in Trials, right? If you give him a Zim, he probably plays worse on it for like the first 2 months, and then eventually he gets back to where he was, and then maybe he improves a little bit, but not very much. Like you have to be kind of good, and then you can become really good with a Zim. Yeah. You can win a game against a Zim team, yeah. If you're much better than them, you will win. Like they can land their shots and you can land your shots too. So it's basically tied. It's basically comes down to awareness and timing and like angles. Yeah, you can't win against a cheater though. A cheater that spawns in with a golden gun in the first round and shoots a golden gun through the walls. Like you can't win against that. It's not possible. I think everything in the industry is dying, including gaming, because the fiat petrodollar has reached the end of the financial crash. Ryan, what are you even talking about? Ryan, what the
Guardian down.
what the hell, Ryan? Cheating is scummy for sure. Absolutely. All right, it's time for the big one today, chat. All right. I've been looking forward to this. Ready? Yeah, it's basically a game who's better. Yeah, if you play against a Zim player, just the last bit of that before I don't want to get too derailed. But if you play against a Zim player, Zim will make you like it's you can't quantify it in an exact number, but it scales based on your skill. So if you're like a 1.5 player and you learn how to use a Zim, you could probably play like a 2.5 player. But if you're like a 1.0 player, you probably play more like a 1.5 player. And if you're a 0.5 player, you probably play like a 0.8, you know? So it's like, it doesn't even matter much. Like, it's not going to do that much for you. Like, you do need to have, because like awareness and movement are really important. And a Zim does not help you with awareness or movement. It doesn't, you know? So you have to have like game knowledge and map knowledge. So it's an important caveat to the Zim stuff, but it's whatever. All right. Oh no! The death of a game marathon? Nerd Slayer Studios. This guy, have you seen his videos? It's all the death of a game, the death of a game, the death of a game. Oh no. He covers the death of video games, and the latest victim is Marathon. Let's see what he has to say.
Halo, Destiny, two iconic shooters that have done their part in affecting the entire global gaming landscape, especially within their domain, the realm of shooting and gunplay. Bungie has been making iconic shooters for north of 20 years, managing to stay relevant as a company in the process too. But as we have recently covered on the Death of a Game series, a series where we investigate the largest contributing factors to the death or process of dying of a game or company by utilizing a timeline of events filled with clues and bits of evidence. But most importantly, we activate our detective intuition, especially during the final deduction, where we crack the case for good.
All right, let's see if he's locked in, all right? If you don't know, I'm obviously something of a marathon hater expert. I am r/marathon hate. I joke, of course. Don't actually hate the game, but I've been there covering the news of Marathon since its earliest moments. And every single step of the way, we have covered the game. So let's see how locked in we are. Let's see what the diagnosis is for the death of Marathon here.
In case you missed any of the clues along the way, Bungie has been on the ropes as of late, with not only Destiny 1 having had its content long moved to maintenance mode quickly after the release of the sequel, Destiny 2, but with Destiny 2 having now also been moved there too, as of the summer of 2026. Throughout this drama, including their acquisition by Sony in 2022 for $3.6 billion, Bungie has been quietly cooking on a number of other projects. While many, including a spin-off Destiny game, would be cancelled ultimately, Bungie finally was able to make one of their projects stick, something they would do utilizing a long-asleep IP that once was the talk of the town in the shooter world, bringing many gaming innovations with it.
Was Marathon really that big a deal back in the day? Was it really? I don't know. I wasn't gaming as much back then. Like, I think I was like a fetus or something when Marathon was in its prime. But was it really? Was Marathon really that game?
Marathon. After a change of direction and course, Marathon would be delayed before finally dropping the following year, March 2026. But Marathon never got its own time in the sun, really, and expectations of the next Destiny title that wasn't to come, and the potential eventual shutdown of the game and series was weighing heavily over the release of Marathon and beyond. But besides just the player expectations placing Marathon on the guillotine, so to say, the game itself had some issues too, being unable to differentiate itself enough and find a lasting population. If none of this prior stuff had happened, we certainly wouldn't be covering Marathon, but considering the majority of the Bungie team left is working on the game, and because I don't think it's a feasible business product or video game to keep an entire struggling company alive, let alone even just in general, That's why Marathon is being featured on the Death of a Game series despite not literally being dead. Something that does happen from time to time in the series, of course. Marathon is a hot subject at the moment, with many detectives asking me to cover the project before the body is even cold. And so, detectives, let us get started on this case, as it continues to unravel before our very eyes.
Oh, man.
The story begins after the acquisition of Bungie by Sony in 2022 for a whopping $3.6 billion. This would include their flagship Bellevue studio in Washington with over 900 employees or more. Sony seemed quite high on what they could do with Bungie and their included IPs, especially because they had a long prior relationship with them due to their Destiny games on PlayStation. And well, 2022 was the best year for Destiny 2, and Destiny really, as a series, was the year the game's Witch Queen expansion came out, one of the most highly touted in the game's history. But to be clear, the acquisition happened right before the expansion, and was likely in motion from the previous year. What I mean is that Sony had likely put this into motion back in 2021. That was the year that Bungie had massive harassment lawsuit issues, and when they started introducing one of the worst practices in gaming history, a severe dagger to their own series, and vaulting. What on earth were they basing their projections on? Worse, according to some former Bungie developer claims, the company was facing insolvency without the acquisition, which seemed to back up our investigation into Bungie as a company through our other 2 Destiny videos. Go check them out, please. Especially when in a year or so time, they were already facing major layoffs and more. Bungie has somehow managed to do it again, after never finishing their deal with Microsoft or Activision either. They had managed to keep themselves afloat, despite the internal and executive issues that had plagued the game since the Microsoft departure. Marathon would be announced May 25th, 2023, and this was the first Bungie project post-Destiny and the first Sony project. Marathon was a long-retired IP, with the first game having launched back in 1994, and one that managed to introduce some unique innovations, such as mouse looking. Yeah, mouse looking, physics, and the coexisting of friendly and enemy AI. It also included an interesting premise and lore set within the game too and world, being a game about a large colony ship named Marathon that was sent to the Tau Ceti system to build a new colony. The story revolves around the 3 main characters, which are actually AI that were put in charge of keeping systems running while those aboard would be in cryo-sleep. Durandal, who was an AI put in charge of menial tasks, would go rampant or rogue, inviting an alien ship into contact with the colony, and then that alien ship would destroy most of it, and then spearheading the human civilization into intergalactic space warfare with the race of slaving aliens thereafter, the 4.
Someone said PvPvE fans. Sad. I think that PvPvE unfortunately kind of ruins both areas. There's some games that execute it to a better success than what Bungie has. But generally speaking, PvP is meant to be, fair. Like fairness is really the key in PvP. And in PvE, it's power fantasy, where it's supposed to be like, you want to be a god. You want to be wildly powerful. You want to mow down, the peasants, the peons, right? The dregs. That's how those 2 worlds work. So putting them together, it's like, how do you do that exactly? How do you have fairness and feel like a god? And the answer is you don't. Like I just don't know that it ever really works. I'm trying to think of like what game integrates PvP and PvE perfectly. And usually what it is it's really a PvP game that has like the tiniest little bit of PvE in it. It's usually not like a 50-50 split like what we've seen in, Gambit and various other playlists.
New Marathon wasn't set to be a revival, but a new entry in the same universe set in the same star system of Tau Ceti, this time investigating a lost colony on one of the system's planets, Tau Ceti 4, and also, according to Bungie, in search of riches, fame, and infamy. Game director Christopher Barrett, who was behind a few Destiny expansions, would state concerning the new sci-fi shooter that it would be a PvP-focused game and not feature a single-player campaign. Though Christopher would confirm the game was not a direct sequel to the original.
That's just such a bad decision right off the rip. No campaign is a huge miss. Should have had a campaign. Not that that would save it, I don't think, but I think that you would have more fans of this game if it had a campaign.
originals, though it would still try to honor the original game mythology and story. To describe the temperature of this time, Bungie gamers were a bit confused at the usage of a Marathon IP, especially when the game seemed to abandon single player, which is what the game was previously known for. And why not make it a Destiny-branded game? We didn't quite know the game would be an extraction shooter yet either, which would only further the departure from the Marathon IP. And
Especially when you see the games industry right now, everyone's in this like gold rush to launch the next big extraction shooter. Obviously, Tarkov was the first on the scene, and then Arkhov, Escape from Arkhov. Arc Raiders obviously took the mantle from them, and then now in recent months they've kind of fumbled that. So now we're left with this weird era of, I don't think anyone wants to touch extraction shooters anymore. Like, I think there's one or two more coming out. One of them's a Mickey Mouse extraction shooter, by the way. That's not a joke. That's an actual game that's coming out. But I think after that one flops, which is obviously going to be the... I mean, could you imagine if the Mickey Mouse extraction shooter clears Marathon? Marathon killed by Mickey Mouse? That would be an incredible headline. But after that one comes out, and maybe a couple more that have been cooking up, then we can maybe put this whole genre to rest, right? Let's put extraction shooters to bed. And the reason is simple. Playing a game where you lose all your shit is just sadistic. It ain't right. Yeah, there's something wrong about it. I like the high stakes, high rewards at times. I think there's a fun flavor to a game. But man, it's crazy that you could play a game and just lose all your shit. You play a game and you could just go poor. Like, here, I'll give you a reason why it's weird. Because in the real world, what you're trying to do is you spawn in at level 0. All right. You're born, right? You're a baby and you have 0 money. And then with time, you become a toddler and you become, a kid and you become a teenager and you get a job and you earn your money and you build your money. Like, that's like the natural progression of life. And you're supposed to like make a good amount of money, buy a fucking house, retire when you're 65 or something, right? Like, that's like what you're supposed to do. But some people along that path develop a vicious gambling addiction, right? And they take their money at like 40 years old and they just fucking blow it on the casino and they fucking lose their house and they lose everything and their life is in shambles. And so extraction shooters were like, you know what? What if we took that horrific experience in the real world and we put it into the digital world? How much would people love that? How awesome would it be if you could just fuck around and lose everything in the video game where you're supposed to be a god, right? The whole point of the game, most games, is like you're supposed to be a god, right? You're supposed to go through the hero's journey. You start off, you have nothing, you're broke, you got 0 currency or whatever, and then you farm up your items, your inventory, and then eventually you're just super powerful. Like, that's like what you do in like most games, right? But the fact that you can lose all your shit in the game, I mean, it does add a little bit of tension, which is kind of fun. There's something there, maybe, but it's a little bit sadistic, right? It's a little bit sadistic because it's just too intense, and it's just not going to be for most people, right? It's just not going to be for most people.
And further confused Destiny players who saw Marathon, and what would almost inevitably from this point on become a sore spot for them, as a game they saw that was only taking away from the further development of the Destiny series, which is hard to really argue, right? Major layoffs would plague Bungie during Marathon's development, as Destiny 2 would be blamed for the company's underperformance, just a year after the company's acquisition. Total number of employees impacted was estimated to be around 100 employees too, amounting to around 10% of the company's overall workforce. It's during this time we would realize that Bungie had been, despite their acquisition up until this point, acting as an independent subsidiary of Sony. Further, the board of directors had been in support of Bungie but had become split, with Pete Parsons, the company's CEO, serving as the tiebreaker.
The witness himself.
Vote. The layoffs were issued by Bungie, though, for example, which was almost worse in a sense because it's...
Pete said, get out of here. Papa Pete needs a couple of new exotic cars, all right? That Mustang Shelby, it needs a second one right next to it. That white Mustang Shelby, he wanted a red one.
Spoke to a possibly larger oncoming inferno, and that Bungie was struggling to keep running as a company on its own, which according to sources at IGN would lead to a fear of a total Sony takeover by the end of 2023. The reason this is relevant for the story of Marathon, besides it being the same studio and, well, video game developer in question, is because a total takeover from Sony could change the destiny, no pun intended, of the new sci-fi shooter, or put unfair expectation on an upcoming title that was never designed to be the video game that would feed Bungie's massive 800 employees or more, but it would soon be put into a position where they would have no choice but to do just that. While news concerning Marathon was quite tight-lipped, some serious news would drop in the spring of 2024, and that was due to some misconduct allegations in investigations surrounding game director and longtime Bungie developer Christopher Barrett, who had allegedly been texting lower-ranking female employees with suggestive texts, utilizing his position of power as an advantage. You know, a dork. This would lead to a leadership mix-up at Bungie, specifically on Marathon, with Joe Ziegler set to replace the guy that was creepy or whatever.
My boy Joey Z locking in, dude. Came over from Valorant, and I freeze the frame at the worst possible time for Joe. Make this the thumbnail. Now he's gone too. Rough.
Now, Joe Ziegler had recently joined the company that following year, where he had previously never worked on a Bungie-branded shooter. Instead, Joe Ziegler was credited as the brainchild of Valorant at Riot Games, a studio he would serve for over a decade. That includes being credited for the core design of Valorant, including its competitive focus as a game. The reason this is super relevant is when Bungie hired...
He was the genius behind Valorant, and then his follow-up act was Marathon. How crazy is that? Now, you might think, well, that's terrible. That's going to look bad on the LinkedIn, you know, might want to erase that one. But it should also be said that the guy who made Concord was also the CEO of Destiny 1. So you do see a little bit of people who will sometimes work on a project and then they're given this prestige of being the brainchild of something or being so, you know, knowledgeable, or, you know, they brought us this gift. And I'm not saying it's completely random luck. It's definitely not. There's definitely some mixture in there somehow, but it's crazy when you see those like polar opposites, right? The guy that was the CEO for Destiny 1 made Concord? What? How did that happen? The guy that was the brainchild of fucking Valorant made Marathon? Like, what is going on here? That's crazy. That's a crazy follow-up act, right?
Joe to work as Marathon's game director.
Someone said the genius behind Valorant, a game that's literally a copy and paste plagiarism of Counter-Strike. Oh no.
They were almost guaranteeing that that was the sort of game he was wanting to make. Joe had admitted in his departure from Riot that he had gotten bored of managing the game he created. He never said he didn't like the game and wanted to move on and create more games, something he failed to do after working with the R&D
I'm sorry, I was getting gaslit by these subtitles. I'm like, what is happening here?
department at
Veridad de Juego? What the hell? He has subtitles on. These are not my subtitles. I can't turn them off.
Riot Games prior to his departure. Now you might say I'm over-exaggerating the claim he would make Marathon competitive focused, like he did with Valorant, but considering his small track record of games, hindsight being 2020, and his personality as a person, it seemed like it was far more likely that that would be the case. Then it would somehow go back into the Marathon roots as a game direction, where it would include single player and so on and so forth. Despite being announced over a year prior, Marathon had not been shown almost at all. That was until Ziegler would appear in the fall of 2024.
This was one for the history books right here. He said in this video, do you remember this? I swear, I remember all the controversies, dude. I got like the Rolodex of controversies in my brain. He said in this video, you guys can wish list the game now, before he had ever shown any gameplay at all. Go ahead, guys. Wish list this game, all right? Like, what? For what reason? Why? Why are we going to wish list this? Give us a reason to wish list it. What are you talking about?
Telling fans that the game was on track, but just not ready to show anything yet. More importantly, the same announcement, Ziegler would make the claim about Marathon that it's a game that's not for everyone. Which I think is fine to say as a game developer, and feels fine, you know, and fair, all things considered. But the problematic part was that this expectation behind the game itself, which was that the new IP would mean a new audience. That was the ultimate goal for why they didn't make it a Destiny-branded game. But as we would later find out, almost 70% of Marathon's audience reportedly would be Destiny players. So if anything, the desire to split the projects was almost seen as adversarial by some Bungie fans, because the statement seemed to be aimed at them specifically, as most of the fans at Bungie at this point, since Halo had long moved on from their grasps, were PvE fans, not PvP fans. And well, Marathon was set to be almost exclusively a PvP or PvPvE experience. Maybe you can chalk it up to the fan base being sensitive, and boy, they are a sensitive bunch. For example, I had people ridiculing me for covering Destiny 2 before Marathon, though Marathon had literally just launched. But I think Destiny fans and thus Bungie—
Hey, we are not a sensitive bunch, all right? We are not sensitive. We have excellent emotional regulation. God damn it.
fans have a solid point, and, you know, they're just very passionate for a reason, which was why was so much focus being put into a project that had such little crossover? Business was the answer. Bungie ultimately gave through their executive and design decisions, something I have accused Bungie of being more interested in already, due to their extensive anti-consumer practices, despite having some, as I already said, devout fans of their titles. Marathon—
Someone said Marathon kind of reminds me of Neomuna. Oh, no. No, 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 don't go there. Imagine they say, yeah, the inspiration for Marathon was Nimbus.
would host a limited alpha test—
New Nimbus skin in Marathon? That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's going to save the game. Nimbus skin in Marathon? That sells for sure. God, that sells. All 5 people playing the game would buy that right now.
of sorts, April 23rd through the 4th of May 2025, and it's during this time we saw a waterfall of things coming out following it, starting with the reception of the game, which according to Kotaku had some good bits, but left them scratching our heads, our being Kotaku. And also it's kind of funny because they actually said out, and this is like the first paragraph that's misspelled. But Kotaku, like many players, were high on the game's moment-to-moment gameplay, which was a return to form for Bungie, with miniguns functioning like past Destiny or Halo guns, and just the whole certain polish and smoothness to accompany it all. The alpha testers gave testers access to 2 maps. Forerunners, think of them like a hero class or character that offered different ways to play the game, including with unique abilities, and contracts you could fulfill for rewards and progression. Some players were likening Marathon, however, to Apex Legends, where you can lose all of your stuff when you die, which was a worrying proposition, as Apex Legends had severe player retention issues due to the game's insanely high skill cap as a battle royale shooter. If Marathon was even more niche than that, it was going to struggle heavily to maintain a healthy population. More complaints in the game were concerning the game's fast time to kill, which made mistakes just way more fatal, and fights able to just end in seconds. Worse, because the maps were rather small, think way smaller than Fortnite or Apex Legends map due to design and the fact that the game only allowed for up to 18 players to play in the same lobby, not counting the AI in the game, so the small maps led to monotony, boredom, and just fights that were at a super fast pace that you couldn't avoid. And then the design of them led itself to people camping certain choke points, creating zones of anti-play, where players waited and listened for the best moment to strike instead of making their own movements and actions. The art style in Marathon was just about the crowning feature of the game, controversially even, as it seemed to be either loved or hated. It was a contrast of bright neon aesthetics mixed with stark color accents and intentional negative.
This is something that I think you just don't do. Like, even just as I'm looking at this doesn't look good. That tree does not look good. That foliage, you got to lock in on the foliage, guys. What are we doing? Look at that tree on the right. Look at the detail of this tree right here. And I get we freeze framed it in the middle of something, so like it's going to be a little blurry, but that looks bad. And the art styles, you know, there's really just 2 art styles. There's the cartoon style. You got your Fortnites, right? Countless games like that. And then you got your realism. You got your Call of Duty. You can go military realism. Destiny was kind of an interesting hybrid where it was realism, but it had a little bit of like the cartoonish realism to it. I'm sure there's a better category to describe it, but that's the way I visualize it. You know, when you look at a Destiny character, it looks like a person or a robot, you know, if it's an exo, I guess, or an awoken, like an alien, but it has that realism to it. And I think that was a good balance between the 2, because I imagine the realism or the like photorealism takes a ton of developmental effort. So when you go the cartoony route, you lower the cost of the development budget quite a bit. That's why like Power World was like something less than $7 million to make. Less than $7 million to make Power World, and it made $700 million. Think about that. Because that cartoony style is just, I think it's just easier than photo. If Power World was photorealism though, fuck, that would have been, that game would be multiple hundreds of millions of dollars, right? So it's crazy the difference when you want to go that route. This art style is just frankly ugly. It is ugly and it looks bad. And I don't know why some people are like, yeah, fuck with it. Because I think some people just like ugly things. You know, like sometimes I make my Titan ugly in Destiny 2. I think it's funny. It makes me laugh sometimes. I don't know. But I just think this art style is ugly. I think this is bad. And I wish we lived in a world where this was a Destiny aesthetic. I wish that this was fucking Lord Saladin running across my screen or Commander Zavala or something like that with a fucking Lord of Wolves in his hand. That would be way better. But it is what it is. Even if we didn't go that route, you know, photorealism, or even if you have to, if you got to save money, Bungie, you know, a concept that's foreign to them, you know, go the cartoon route then. Honestly, if the game was cartoony, but played well, I don't know, wouldn't be terrible.
Of space, or if you didn't take art in college, it has bright colors and utilizes them in a grim, dystopian, sci-fi looking setting. The problem being, the rest of the game is so damn generic. The UI is hard to navigate and even read. The UI looks like my friends modded it into Halo 2 or something, and the actual game systems are no deeper, with each shell serving as the body of each runner, aka player on Taw City 4. The idea is runners are manufactured mercenaries with programmable traits and personalities, and used to navigate harsh conditions on the planet instead of actual human forms.
Which, by the way, I'm not going to go too deep down this because this should probably be its own standalone video. But I do feel like there's an element where with the shooters, like they're kind of a violent genre, right? Like you have a gun and you shoot other people or simulations of people if you want, right? I feel like there's an element where Bungie's really trying to like step back as far away from that as much as possible. And I feel like they just kind of like water it down for some reason. I don't know why. I feel like I like shooter games when they're just a little bit unhinged, you know? I'm not saying like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 campaign unhinged necessarily, but like, you know, there's a level of a shooter game. You're shooting people, you know, like it ain't Hello Kitty Adventure Island, right? And so this idea where we got to like, oh, you know, you're not shooting people anymore. You're shooting, you know, simulations of people and 3D printed people, and they don't bleed blood anymore. They bleed, you know, purple goo. And it's like, I get it, but like, I feel like they're trying to play both sides. And I think it's a problem for them because they're not tapping into what the actual shooter fans want in a game. Instead, they're creating this like weird, bizarre, twisted version of shooter games that's it doesn't there's the audience just isn't there as much, I think. I genuinely think it's just not there because people aren't playing shooter games because they want to play Hello Kitty Adventure Island. They want to play the unhinged thing. They kind of like it. They want blood. They want a little bit of gore. You know what I'm saying? Like it works. It has a congruency with the audience. And so when you work against those elements and you're like, we're going to still make a shooter game, which is like this violent thing, but we're going to water it down as much as possible. So you're not really shooting people. You're just shooting, you know, 3D printed, you know, plastic people, and they don't really bleed out. They just have, you know, purple goo come out of them. It's like, okay, you know, I get it. They started it with like the Destiny 2 with Crucible and stuff, you know, but it's like, I kind of wish that these companies that want to make shooter games, like just kind of, you know, just own it, or just don't make the shooter game then. Either own it and make a shooter game that has that, you know, that has that like unhinged nature that people like about them, or just don't make the game. Cause I feel like it's a little bit weird. This isn't like the hill I die on with Marathon, by the way, but it's something that I kind of see the trend going as far that way as possible. And then you kind of feel like there's an element of that. And I don't know if it was exactly what was happening with Destiny 2, but the game kind of just turned into all ability spam, abilities, and you start really shooting your guns anymore. And I don't think that that's what killed Destiny 2. But what I'm saying is that I think that the ability spam is a product of a company that doesn't understand what shooter fans want from the shooter game. People want to play a shooter game and shoot guns and make it feel really fun and rewarding. And there's a certain, you know, there's certain things that to pair with that you want to have in those shooter games. You know what I'm saying? You want to have that stuff in the shooter games. You shouldn't try to mix ingredients that work against it almost. And so that's kind of a problem I have with some of these shooter games and where they're going, and why I like the games where they're a little bit unhinged. I like those ones a little bit more.
These runners would have elements of personalities that came from historical features and more. When a shell is destroyed, because your mind as the operator or runner is already detached, you just warp into another shell and repeat the process. This is probably the most unique part of Marathon, to be honest, because the actual execution was essentially just a hero shooter in this game now, where each hero has their own personality and unique abilities. So Marathon, great gunplay or not, as Kotaku would state, seemed like a shell of a game. And they, and myself, and many others would not see the feasibility of a game unless some serious changes were made. And that's exactly what would happen in the summer of 2024, when Bungie would not only delay Marathon, they would promise to make some serious game design changes to respond to the legion of negative feedback they had been receiving, with the new launch set to be the following year in the spring now instead. Sony shortly after would publicly reveal after their major Concord failure that the delay of Marathon and, well, their overall live service strategy, which was like the greenlight 10 to 15 live service games in quick succession, hadn't been going very smoothly either. And when you
I feel like Concord's failure, unfortunately, made Sony way more apprehensive towards Marathon. Like, if the timeline was different and Concord never happened, Marathon Marathon might have done better if it wasn't following the shadow. If it wasn't essentially the sequel in terms of bad news to Concord. What's up, Shield Billy Has Gun? I feel like it definitely didn't help that Concord had just crashed and burned. And then, now Sony's like, all right, what's our next live service project? And ta-da, here's Marathon, right? Like that's the following act to Concord in terms of Sony's live service projects and the execution. It's not good. That obviously made them pretty apprehensive to a lot of things. So why they forced them out the door with it after they did the first delay.
get mentioned negatively before even launching, delayed or not, by your parent company, it shows how much was riding on the success of your launch, which is exactly why the game was delayed, right? A serious delay like this means that those in charge felt like no other alternative was viable. But right before this announcement was made, there was actually another serious bit of information that would be revealed concerning Marathon, and one that also likely contributed to the game's delay, and many people's negative opinion of the game, especially from this point on. And that was accusations of plagiarism having plagued Marathon, coming from multiple artists, such as Tofu Rabbit and Anti-Real, all showing receipts that seemed to show some level of authenticity, such as mock weapon drawings, environment assets seemingly taken from artist poster designs made years prior, and more. Something that Bungie had already been accused of, concerning Destiny, by the way. This would force Bungie to address the reports, as they would build steam on social media with video game media outlets. Bungie would have art director Joseph Cross and game director Joe Ziegler make a public apology May 16th, 2025, with Cross sitting there looking like he was being sent to the gulag after the video, with him struggling to even get his words out concerning his statement about the accusations of art plagiarism from trans artists specifically, and plural. His excuse being they obtained a bunch of concept art and reference pieces that their team seemed to miss their due diligence on and crediting, which made it into the live build of the game in alpha. But this game was moments away from launching, and at this point having to comb through your game's art and redo it was not feasible for the company, which meant they were going to have to pay up or work to satisfy the artists they had wronged, which usually means crediting them, which they would reportedly do according to Anti-Real themselves, but I'm skeptical of that ultimately. It wasn't just taking some elements, it's like the game's whole iconography and high contrast coloring, which set the game apart, and is almost the only thing that does. I personally like the style of the art Marathon exhibits because it's bold and unique, but I can't help but feel this weird and sour taste in my mouth about it now. And while the entire thing ends up being ironic when the game is about corporations and their endless search for greed, and yet the art style seemed to be much of the same. This had done in my eyes irreparable damage to the brand of Bungie and their upcoming sci-fi shooter Marathon, and soured many players from even touching the game. Marathon would host their second technical test on October 22nd through the 28th of 2025, which would manage to be a much more...
I think that in regards to the art theft scandal and stuff, it was really, really bad at the time. At least they did make it up with the artist, so it felt like, once it's resolved, it's resolved. Not really much of a talking point. The only last bit that anyone could say is that the art was, clearly they took like inspiration from them without crediting them. So it's like, it's a tough situation to be in there though, because, who is the originator of this entire art style? It's hard to say, like, especially it's its own unique version in some ways. So I feel like some people throw a lot of shade over the art theft scandal, and initially I thought it was terrible, and I think initially it was pretty terrible, but after they like resolved it, it's kind of like, all right, they fixed it. It was stupid. I feel like that's the least of Marathon's problems now.
Positive testing phase for the game, but this and the previous tests were actually under NDA, with the NDA having been lifted on the first test according to reports on purpose to unleash the negative response that the game was getting, and only a select few video game journalists getting to report on the game publicly. Paul Tassi, the king of Destiny, would report on Marathon as well in his time during his technical testing.
The king of Destiny, according to who?
Which was that unless you were already a fan of extraction shooters, Marathon had done very little to attract you as a player, especially when compared to another competitor, Arc Raiders, who had just launched the same month of the test and seemed to find a great amount of success in being closer to Escape from Tarkov, the extraction shooter pioneer, and yet offering a unique and challenging PvE threat that kept players honest too, and giving them a more desire to be cooperative. The strangest and most conflicting thing about Marathon, though, which Tassi manages to mention in his thoughts as well, is that the game is actually caught in between being more hardcore than Tarkov and less hardcore at the same time. I'll explain. More hardcore in terms of gunplay and gameplay, but more casual in nearly every other way, including you being given free starter kits to play. So who was this game actually attempting to appeal to? This essentially was a fictitious audience that didn't exist. A Destiny fan who liked extraction shooters already was a bit of a reach, but outside of that, a gamer who likes an extraction shooter who is harder to play than most, but less involved and less hardcore, which is sort of like the lifeblood of the genre?
The idea was to build an entirely new audience, right? Like they have a new art style, they have a new vision. This is like what the games are meant to do. Where did the Arc Raiders fans come from? It's a good question, right? Like Arc Raiders blew up, came off the scene, right? Were those guys just all playing Escape from Tarkov? Absolutely not. Are those guys an amalgamation of former Tarkov, former COD players, Battlefield players? Probably, right? Some Destiny players, I imagine. Not too many, but some. And then a lot of people are probably just new people that got, excited about the launch of something totally new and different. Like they're fresh Arc Raiders players. And so like Marathon's that was their game plan, was to do that. And then as far as the difficulty goes, they were hoping that, the initial map perimeter would be watered down enough to give people enough of a taste of their game and extraction that they would eventually scale up to doing cryo. Didn't really land that way for them, unfortunately. But that was the game plan. Like I can see that's the game plan. And like I can see the vision that Bungie had. The execution wasn't very good, but you can see what they were trying to do, I guess.
Bungie's answer to everything was that players would find it easier over time to recover from bad losses, which, sounds like you're telling people to submit themselves to constant thrashing, which don't get me wrong, I believe in this, I'm a martial artist, and I also like fighting games. But that's a niche expectation and market expectation, such as, like I said, with fighting games, or something that's like more strategic, like StarCraft. While many people can be okay with that sort of thing, arguably, and I say this as a martial artist, most people aren't. Bungie would respond to the feedback of the most recent test a month or so later, where they would seemingly commit to making the game more hardcore, with statements to support this such as them claiming that players want more challenge. The whole point of an extraction shooter is you are challenged to even survive, which is sort of true. But when you have the ability to play a game fast and slow, aka camp and then kill someone in one shot with fast time to kill and gameplay, it's actually more hardcore already in some ways. Further pushing things in that direction might seem intuitive, but it was a bit of a trap. Bungie would also further state that according to feedback, we heard the feedback that the world didn't feel dangerous or lived in, which seemed to be them doubling down on making the game more hardcore versus more approachable. While these might actually be relevant decisions when making a niche product, Marathon wasn't a niche product, and it didn't have the luxury of being one, especially when the budget was reportedly $250 million. Meanwhile, Arc Raiders had cost 1/3 of that, and had now managed to sell as many as 14 million copies, doing so with an affordable and approachable price of $40 too, a price Bungie would actually mimic with the launch of Marathon. The last major changes to come to Marathon before the game would release in the spring of 2026 was the major shell revisions that happened in January 2026. These shell changes would shift the game from being a hero shooter of sorts with pre-made characters to more custom characters that you could select your own upgrades and abilities for individually through the game's shell model system, where you would choose a shell to inhabit, granting you access to their body and unique abilities that would come with it, such as the Assassin, specializing in stealth and subterfuge, the Destroyer, a well-balanced generalist, the Vandal, featuring the best movement in the game, the Triage, functioning sort of like a support, the Recon, the king of information, the Thief, focused on obtaining the best loot, the Sentinel, about area control, and finally, the Rook, which was the most unique shell mode, taking inspiration from Escape from Tarkov's Scav system, where in that game a player drops into an already in progress match as a solo player, risking nothing since you're given a loadout, allowing you to loot up your stash a bit. Though the problem in Marathon is that you are always given a free kit, so there's kind of like, you're not really forced to use the Rook system, which in Escape from Tarkov, either you go into things with like a knife or a melee weapon, or you have to go the Rook route, which is essentially just being a scav and trying to get some, little pieces here and there. The core difference makes Marathon a lot more about gunplay, if you think about it. But back to Marathon. Or with the implant and core system in the game, with implants granting you passive stats and allowing for up to 4 to be chose, and then cores allowing for up to 2. Which would then give you unique abilities such as turning you invisible when aiming or giving you a second charge on your grapple device. Cores are sometimes unique to your shell model too. And then you have the weapon and equipment system in the game, which allows you to customize your optics, barrel, and ammo on your gun, and what kind of shield and utility gadget you would take. You also have things like ammo, power cells, and medical supplies to fill your bag and resupply, which just about sums up the customization, loot, and loadouts of the game, which was fairly extensive in Marathon. Marathon would launch globally on major platforms March 5th, 2026. Marathon
Oh, we didn't even mention the server slam. We skipped over it.
would score relatively impressively amongst both critics and players, according to both Steam and aggregate view website Metacritic, where it would score an 88% from fans and an 82 out of 100 from 50.
I always have to question these damn reviews and how high they are, because it's insane to me that Marathon reviews so well that everyone's just raving about the game. There's like, this is the best game ever that no one is playing. It's such a fascinating bit of discourse, right? You just don't see that too often. Like, you don't see a game that's just like, yeah, this game is fucking awesome, but I never want to play it though. Like, who says that? Like, what even happened here? There's just no way.
55 different critics respectively. These numbers are pretty good, especially considering how little content was in the actual game, where the majority of the strength of the reviews seemed to come from the game's quality gunplay and customization. Some pretty major reviewers though, such as IGN, would rate Marathon quite high at a 9 out of 10, where in their review, they would describe the game as unapproachable, unforgiving, and off-puttingly creepy, but mean that mostly in a positive way, naturally bigging up the gunplay, while simultaneously talking about how there's plenty of room for improvement, like better onboarding, better UI, and more maps, which is just like, how are you giving it a 9 out of 10? And then GameSpot, who might have given it one of the most positive reviews period, just more flowery than IGN's, I guess, 9 out of 10. The same rating they gave our graders, by the way, where they would say Marathon contained excellent gunplay, phenomenal art, and a cool customization system. Though the strange thing was how different both of these games actually were, and were performing because of this. Arc Raiders has hope built in.
Imagine if Marathon just looked like this. First person, but it just looks like this. God, dude. Oh, man. That alone would have helped, in my opinion. And I hate to be such a anti-art Andy or anything like that. Like, I understand that there's different art styles. And it's okay. You could experiment and try some different stuff. But I feel like when it comes to video games, because it's a consumer product, I don't know that you want to make your art style super wacky. It looks like a highlighter factory exploded type of vibe. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, is what I'm saying. And I feel like this art style, it ain't broke. You know what I'm saying? There will be many more games that look like this and have this style that will do very well over the next 10 years. Because this style is sick. Yeah, this is what people like. And if you want to add sci-fi elements to it, of course, there's aliens roaming around this game. There's a bunch of sci-fi elements in this game even. So it's not like you have to do all one or all the other. It doesn't have to be such a polarizing extreme. You can still have a sci-fi game, but I think the base art style should be this, especially for Bungie and the history that like how they developed. They should have done Destiny, but if they're not going to do Destiny, they should have done something that looked like this, I think. This art style is awesome, dude. As soon as I loaded into this game and I like ran through the environment, I was captivated. It's a great game.
To the fabric of the game, which has led to lobbies being divided based on the ABM matchmaking, aggression-based matchmaking, that pulled aggressive players with each other and non-aggressive players with each other. So not only were players choosing to cooperate with each other even just without that, more often than not, they were incentivized by the matchmaking for this, despite no exclusive PvE-only mode. And to be blunt, the proof was in the pudding. Marathon had peaked at 77,000 players, while Arc Raiders had peaked at just 459,000 players. I feel like these critical reviews were pretty irresponsible. It's one thing to like the game, but to rate it amongst some of the greatest games of all time just felt bewildering, all things considered. Especially when it seemed like only people who played the game or liked extraction shooters were rating it highly, which seemed to be a very small amount of players. Though no mention of the game's poor value battle pass system from critical reviewers, which didn't allow for you to...
It's funny about the game reviews though, because like it didn't really matter. Like I think that the journalists and the game reviewing companies like IGN and them, like most people just don't really care anymore. Like they seem to miss the mark pretty frequently. So it's like, sure, IGN rates it a 10, fine. They're not gonna make it. It's inconsequential to the game's success or failure. It's like most people can just evaluate something on their own perceptions, right? You can just go watch the trailer, you can go watch the gameplay review and be like, that's a game I like, or that's a game I don't want to play. That's what most people are doing anyways. So even if the reviewers rate it, the best game ever, greatest game of all time, game of the year, it's like, doesn't really matter much, does it?
Earn back currency you would spend to roll towards the next pass, would only offer one skin, and would oftentimes give you duplicate cosmetic items, being easily the worst valued battle pass in extraction shooter or BR history. The game would launch with 4 maps, just 4. Perimeter, the open starting and training zone map, Outpost, a close quarters facility-based map, and Dire Marsh that was added later, which was a swampy area. And then the 4th map I will discuss very shortly. But really, you had...
I just realized that Dire Marsh has a similar aesthetic to Disjunction. I didn't think about that until just now. Damn.
2 maps for 2 weeks at launch, which felt crazy for a game that was in development for so long, but wasn't far off of Arc Raiders 5. Still, it's not even really a 4v5, it's more like a 3v5, and even that was unfair. Why? Arc Raiders maps are huge. They're so big players can largely remain undetected at times without the need for invisibility. The tight-cornered map design in Marathon felt like it was purposely designed to force the fastest-paced gunfights as possible, which was only going to attract a certain kind of player, really.
Well, I mean, yes, like the maps are smaller and the movement is more of like the arcade style shooters, right? Like there's some shooter games go like the military route where it's like slow tactical movement. Others, it's just, run and gun and sprint and fly and jump and blink and grapple. And, like, I don't think it's necessarily wrong that they picked this. Like, this is just the vision that they went with. And the maps being small and being a little bit more action packed is not like objectively negative. So, you could say it's a bad thing and that's fine if you just don't like it, but that's a very subjective just opinion on Marathon.
But yeah, to put a bow on my statements, I really think the critical reviews for Marathon were just very irresponsible and totally off base. Cryo Archive, the de facto in-game zone, would be introduced shortly after launch, 2 weeks later alongside Ranked for the first time. Cryo Archive is the 4th map that I was talking about, and was located on the USC Marathon colony ship in orbit, which you would later figure out was abandoned due to it being attacked. Cryo Archive serves as the multi-layer dungeon of the game, not just allowing for players to potentially extract or exfil, as it's called in Marathon, with powerful gear that could net as much as 50,000 credits on a single run, the catch being the 5,000 credit buy-in minimum, and the challenge presented throughout the tier dungeon. If you make it to the end of the dungeon, you can fight a compiler, which is a 4 alien race member who was likely being experimented on by the AI Durandal, who we would discover was somehow involved with the colony on Tau Ceti 4, who if defeated, grants his exclusive weapon, rare implants, or weapon modifiers, and 8,000 worth of credits, and golden shields or backpacks. The rewards were grand, but not realistic for most players to even reach, with community reports estimating that this in-game zone was made for like maybe 0.5 to 5% of the player base, a staggeringly low number for such an important piece of in-game content clearly meant to be a large focus for the game. Bungie would follow up this major update with their mid-season update the following month, April 14th, 2026. And this update was interesting for me because it was a clear answer, I think, to the success of Arc Raiders, allowing players to now resurrect other runners and allowing for better group options with them for future exfils. You even got increased XP for playing solo now. The game would even add a number of contracts to complete for gameplay rewards on top of reworking Perimeter, the game's beginner map, to solo play only, still focused on the same though. Look, the mid-season update was a good update, but it felt like Marathon was playing catch-up to their competition. Problem being, the rate of cooperative play was inherently lower in their game no matter the concessions they had just made, because the entire premise of the game and lore was about profiting for yourself, or whatever faction you were working for, as a mercenary. There's no unifying goal like in Destiny, and the gameplay being hardcore as well just makes it feel even more unfriendly. While Arc Raiders was third person and allowed for more chances of a comeback or avoidance playstyle due to the higher time to kill and then bigger map. While fans of Marathon seemed to be quite happy with the game as the game struggled to reach even 20,000 peak players by May 2026, Sony would claim they were prepared to support Marathon with more content and not shut it down, while seemingly ignoring the elephant in the room, which was that the game only managed to sell 1.2 million copies compared to Arc Raiders' 16 million copies sold, or even Destiny 1's 6 million copies sold. There wasn't much to bet on here, with the audience being smaller than some.
Wait, Destiny 1 sold 6 million copies? I didn't know about this. Did Destiny 1 sell 6 million copies? Based on leaked court documents from the lawsuit between Bungie and Marty O'Donnell, Destiny 2014 sold approximately 6.3 million copies in its first month. Wow, that's crazy. Incredible. So it did what? Marathon did 1.2, so 5 times that, roughly. Pretty crazy.
Some indie developer games, and with the size of a AAA company at 300 developers working on Marathon, a $250 million game reportedly, for 4+ years, the money wasn't going to add up, and fast. But Sony couldn't just exactly abandon the game, when it could lead to the shuttering of Bungie altogether. Season 2 for Marathon would drop June 2nd, 2026, and with it, the introduction of a new zone in Dire Marsh, which would serve as a disorienting, horror-inducing new map to overcome, and the new Sentinel Runner shell. But most importantly to accompany the new season, I think, was the introduction of the game's new cradle system, which allowed for you to upgrade and further customize your runner shell as the season would progress, allowing you to convert weapons, equipment, and other items into XP for the cradle. I think a lot of live service games have something kind of like this, but giving the game a sort of economy system, leveling up the cradle, gives you access to the energy that you can place into 6 different upgrade trees: strength, recharge, dexterity, endurance, support, and resistance. Think of a stat
Kind of like Destiny. It's like, mobility, strength, discipline, super, class ability.
or trait system. These new changes would help jump the population up to like 40,000 players peak, though only 3,000 more players on average, which I think shows how much burnout the game was suffering from. Which sure is inherent to the extraction genre, which I think is problematic, but seemed to be hitting Marathon even harder. Bungie had to pull out an Uno reverse card though and answer some of the echoed sentiments of their player base, which they would do with the announcement of a soon-to-launch new PvE mode dubbed Vault Breaker. This mode would allow you to earn vault data, utilized for upgrading your kit or gear in the PvP modes or map. This new PvE mode was experimental and set to be part of the next mid-season update. The thing is, as great as it sounds, the mode was supposed to only be temporary, set to expire in August. And well, each season came with a new wipe to all your progress, gear, weapons, and levels and contracts, you name it, which we didn't even mention yet. Also further contributing to the seemingly inherent burnout that the game had. This further feeds the whole feel Marathon was built for a faux hardcore audience, one that didn't really exist. Because how could casual players maintain their stashes while also losing so much if you reset their progress every few months? It just seemed like a recipe for a game that would only attract the most elite players, which wasn't sustainable as a multiplayer game, let alone a game.
The problem is that they did the reset because that creates a new entry point for new players, right? Destiny had a big problem where the game kept going on and on and on and on. And, you know, in the later stages, people are just feel overwhelmed jumping in. They're like, oh yeah, like I can never jump back into this game. I'm so many dozens or hundreds of hours behind, right? So the idea is to make a game that has these reset points from day one, right? You don't want to implement this later on in its life cycle, but you want these reset points in day one. So that way, you know, these are the entry points for the new players. And each entry point, each season would accompany a big marketing push, right? Like makes sense why they would do it. It didn't work out, but it logically makes sense. I mean, you don't have to like it, but it's like, it do make sense. And it kind of works with like a lot of these extraction shooter games do this. Like it's kind of the standard, I think, right? I know Arc Raiders does something slightly different, but I think this is perfectly fine for this genre. I just think that this genre is just not that popular in general, and Marathon is is especially not popular in this genre.
Game that cost $250 million, and one that was starting to become the leading game in Bungie's fading portfolio. Bungie was already in deep waters. 2026 was the year that everyone else found out about it too, when they would cut nearly 300 employees, a third of their workforce, when they would admit Destiny 2 had fallen short of expectations, which had led to the layoffs, and them putting the entire Destiny franchise on the shelf, with no promise of new content or sequels to come. This was after Sony had just recently faced a massive $765 million impairment loss due to Bungie's performance specifically. Most of the Destiny team would be laid off, but even the Marathon team would be affected too, though Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Herman Hulst would state that the layoffs were necessary to align the studio's resources with its current priorities and long-term goals, but that they will remain committed to Marathon and other efforts focused on incubation efforts for future projects. And if you want to hear more about how this affected the Destiny franchise, again, just check out the Destiny 2 video. But this didn't bode well for Marathon either, with the majority of the Destiny team laid off. All of the company's focus now had been thrusted into the lap of an incredibly niche hardcore extraction shooter, a game that was never intended to prop the company up entirely. Worse, if what they say is true about 70% of Marathon.
It's a weird thing that we say that the game was never meant to prop the company up entirely, but it's like, what it should have been is like, they should have had a sort of budget and a certain number of devs working on this project that would be sustainable for a potential turbulent multiple years. Or, I mean, I don't know. It's an interesting dilemma. Like Marathon's team within Bungie should be completely separate from Destiny's team. They don't have to have all this overlap. It feels weird that they do have as much overlap as they did. It obviously was problematic for Destiny at times. And, definitely something that I think Bungie even themselves probably regrets.
Audience coming from Destiny, they weren't going to be happy about these announcements, and the loyalty to Marathon might be even more fickle. But coming as a bit of a shock was the news of Ziegler, Marathon's game director, departing July 18th, 2026. Ziegler was going to move on to other ideas and adventures reportedly, and this is...
Yeah, whatever he does next, I will be bringing you a video. I'm very curious to see. He did Valorant. He did Marathon. He has to hit a slam dunk on the next one, okay? If he pulls off a Marathon 2 or a Concord 2, that's going to be rough. Hopefully, our boy Joey Z locks in and his next project is a smash hit. We'll see.
Still a developing story, sure, with many in the community thinking that Ziegler was fired and didn't depart on his own volition, really. Ziegler was set to be replaced by his assistant game director, Del Chaff III, I think is how you say that, who would lead the game now alongside creative director Julia Nardine. But did any of this matter at this point? If the idea was that Ziegler led the ship astray, the ship has already crashed, everyone. And when you put someone in charge of things who likes to do things, you know...
I think Ziegler just wanted out of there. The fact that Ziegler said he was leaving and working on a new project tells me that he was looking to leave. He found a project to leave and work on. So then he put in his 2-week notice at Bungie, basically. Like, that's the way I interpret it. I could be wrong. I mean, it could be something totally different. It could be Bungie pushing him out because they want to go in a PvE direction or something. I don't know. Or because the game performed so poorly, they're like, what the fuck? You fucked up. Get out of here, bud. But at this stage, with Marathon's likely imminent doom within the next year, right? It seems weird to like change the director. I mean, we just did this in Destiny 2, so it's like not too unbelievable, I guess, because we went from Pete Parsons to Justin Truman to, I guess, Poria Torkin now. But my opinion is that Joe was trying. I mean, it could be a mutual thing where like he wants to go because he doesn't want to be a part of it anymore, and then they also want him to go. Like they're not stopping him. They're not like, hey, you better stay here, bud. But the part that is fascinating about it, to me at least, is that because he was a big Valorant guy, like the brainchild of Valorant and all of that, and then he's the highest up at Bungie for Marathon, he was making crazy, crazy cash from that one. That's the type of job you stay, you know what I'm saying? If they tell you there's 2 more months left before this game shuts down, you stay both of those months. You cash in that check, dude. That's a big check, right? That's a lot of money to be the studio lead. That's big. Game director, that's a big salary. I would do that. If they made me the game director of Marathon right now and paid me $350,000 a year, I would take that job, because that's a house in a year. If the game's even here in a year, but that's a house. You don't act like you would do that. Would you be the game director? You would be the game director. Don't think you're better than me.
A certain kind of way, you can't really be surprised by the end result, which is you, Bungie, made an incredibly niche extraction shooter that nobody asked for, no matter how good the gunplay is or not, and that's not a sustainable business model or product selling point alone. In the case of Valorant with Ziegler, it worked because you had a company not reliant on the success of the product nearly as much, and a game model that was far more proven with Counter-Strike. Marathon was even more niche than Apex Legends, though, and other extraction shooters and BRs. And Apex, for example, is a title that has often struggled from carrying the too hardcore label. Vaultbreaker would be introduced July 21st, 2026 for 2 weeks' time, and essentially was the Cryo Archive but without other players, well, unless you decided to team up with other players in duo or trio modes. Choosing to do so, by the way, was optimal since the game, PvE focused or not, now, was difficult as a solo player in the game, mimicking just about all other forms of gameplay too for solo players, including, PvP. Which just goes to show you can't really design an extraction shooter exclusively for one group of players, like for groups.
I genuinely think this whole Vaultbreaker thing was just Bungie's way of like letting people that bought Marathon get to play the 4th map and get to clear the compiler as like a fucking apology before they like send this thing into end of service. Like it just kind of screams that to some degree, where they made this thing really hardcore and then like the majority of people just like left and didn't play it, couldn't play it. So they're like, you know what? We're sorry. Here you go. Play the game, play the thing that you bought, and that's about it. That's a wrap. Like that's the way I see it. Now, could it have been a wildly successful? Maybe, but unlikely, and clearly it hasn't been. So it feels more like it feels a lot like the June update in Destiny 2, if that makes sense. It's like that like love letter type thing where they're like trying to be like, you know what, we're sorry, we fucked up, but like here's the thing that you paid for, like you paid for this Cryo Archive thing, and here, go kill the compiler, this one's on us, guys, and on their way out, they kind of are doing it. And Joe Ziegler and Lars Bakken leaving the same time. It's like, yeah, come on, you got to read the room with that one.
For solo players, you need a mixture of the two, or at least encouragement for players to work together or avoid each other in certain circumstances. This likely means having different sorts of encounters for different types of players. This new mode, though, was greatly appreciated by the remaining 14,000 players peak or so, and the much lower 5,000 players on average, but was criticized mostly because it would be a temporary mode. But this is where I'm gonna have to do my thing, and be the detective who says things people sometimes don't want to hear. Many fans of Bungie or Marathon, it's hard to tell sometimes, are quick to claim if they just made Marathon more PvE-centric or added PvE content, something that people also said with New World, by the way, it would fix the game. The issue being, at that point you have something similar to Destiny, and yet a highly inferior version of it. And if
Yes.
anything, even if they can add some PvE content, it's going to feel incredibly disconnected and piecemeal by comparison to had they just, I don't know, copied like The Division instead, which had single-player content but was largely focused on the cooperative content in the game, and it had PvP in the form of the Dark Zone where you could lose your picked-up items. It was far, far more approachable, and it wasn't even an extraction shooter, technically. I really think people would have given that game more of a chance than this game. Hell, even if you named it Destiny the Dark Times or some shit as a spin-off game. But instead, in the end, we had Bungie dedicate 300 of their developers and 4 years of time to a game that barely anyone was ever going to play, even if they liked it in the first place. And to address another elephant in the room, yeesh, I need to get these guys out of here. Extraction shooters are not exactly in the state of growth as a genre at the moment. Hell, even after their initially massive successes, Arc Raiders as of late, in July of 2026,
This is
only
true.
has 50,000 players peak, just 10% of the game's initial audience. Delta Force, which launched back in 2025, still has 120,000 players peak or so,
Wow.
and 70,000 players on average, though with very mixed reviews. And it also primarily relies heavily on the Battlefield as game massive mode that's included in the game, so it's not just an extraction mode game. The point I'm trying to make here is that extraction shooters almost inherently have a high burnout rate, and unless they can effectively offer another way to enjoy the game, they can't overcome that.
Yeah, so the idea is like extraction can complement something else, but extraction can't just be the main focus. Which is why I theorized in Destiny, I was like, it would be kind of cool if there was an activity you could do where you lost something. I'm not saying you lose everything on your character, right? But imagine if there was an activity where you did like, let's say a GM strike, right? A GM, but back in the day when it was really hard, GM corrupted. And if you die, like one of your items randomly gets deleted or something. But if you successfully beat it, you get some crazy fucking exotic. You get some red tier rarity weapon. I'm not saying that saves the game. I'm saying as an optional thing for people that really want that. Complementing into a game like Destiny where you have like a plethora of all these options and play styles, that would be interesting. That would be interesting to complement a game like Destiny. You would not change the whole ecosystem around that. You wouldn't center the whole game on that. It would still be Destiny, the looter shooter. You do strikes, you do campaigns, you play Crucible, you play Gambit if you want. But having a mode or a variant of a mode where you got to play that extraction-esque, that hardcore-esque style would be awesome. It would be interesting at least. You could even tie it into the lore in a really cool way where like you lose your fucking light or something, like your ghost dies or something. Depends on how hardcore you want to get with it, like how much you want to, turn that knob up if it does do well. But it's like, it makes perfect sense with the lore in the game as well. Can you imagine if they made it super hardcore? They would never do this. This is just a funny idea, by the way. But imagine they make it super hardcore and you like literally go out there and you die and your fucking ghost gets crushed. Just like how we crush those hive ghosts, like some boss or raid boss or someone who kills you or something grabs your ghost, your literal ghost, and crushes it. And then you'd lose all your loot because of it. That'd be kind of wicked, dude. All I'm saying is that'd be pretty hardcore. It would be a game mode I wouldn't really want to go into that much, right? So I would play the majority of the other modes. Like I'd play Trials and I'd play Iron Banner. And then once in a while, if I really wanted to challenge myself, or if I really wanted to suffer, experience what that's like, you could just go in and try it out. And of course, there'd be cheaters in there. That'd be problematic. There'd be, who knows what problems there would be in this fucking thing, because it's Bungie after all, right? But it would be interesting, right? It would be interesting because it complements a game that already has so many options. But in and of itself, the idea being the whole game and everything working around it is just not that appealing to most people. It's just not that appealing. It isn't. And you can see the evidence because people aren't playing these games as much.
Not convinced of them as a genre, really, and never have been despite Tarkov's success. My reasons being, a vertical slice of a BR, to me, doesn't seem like that much of a viable game design or business model, but that's just how I feel. And yes, people will point to Tarkov, which launched on Steam a year ago, and the game has been around for almost 10 years now, but Tarkov was a unique part of internet culture, built from the community up, much like DayZ was for its time. These games have permeated the cultural zeitgeist in ways that most games can't even dream of, which is oftentimes why why they are orders of magnitude larger than their competition in the same spaces. I'm just not convinced one long-lasting internet icon of an extraction shooter is proof of an industry existing exactly.
I think, like we said, I think that Tarkov is proof that that mode, that hardcore nature, can be appealing. Like I said, it's like Gambit. Like Gambit in Destiny 2, it's not a game mode that I actually hate, right? I don't hate Gambit, but what I think is that in the hierarchy of where Bungie should invest their time in the development of Destiny 2, it's that Gambit is not at the top rung, right? Like Gambit is not like, you know, when a new season comes out or a new annual expansion comes out, it's not the first thing that's on people's minds. They're not like, man, I got to get in there and guild that dredging. Day one, I'm getting in there and I'm getting into Gambit. You know, like it's just not on people's mind. People, when a new annual expansion comes out, they're like, okay, campaign, baby, let's go. Legendary campaign, right? Let's get in there. Let's see what the new story's about. Other people are like, let's see what the new weapons are. I want to see what the new exotics are. You know, are they going to be crazy? Other people are like, let's do some builds. Let's take the new exotic armor piece and let's see how I can infuse this into like my builds and like we can maybe spam the, you know what I'm saying? Like that's like where people are at with it, you know? So Gambit is okay as a game mode in Destiny 2. It's an okay game mode. I don't hate it, but it ain't at the top. You know what I'm saying? It's somewhere maybe in the middle, maybe at the bottom in terms of importance, right? If you had to rank what's more important, Crucible or Gambit, right? I think most of you should say Crucible. I hope. If you don't, honestly, mods ban them. Ban anyone that says otherwise. You know, Crucible is more important than Gambit. For sure, Crucible is more important than Gambit. Come on. And similarly, extraction and this like hardcore mode, all this mode is just you die and you lose shit, right? Normally you die, you don't lose anything. It's not that genius of an idea even. Like it's really not that crazy. You die and you lose your shit, or you die and you don't lose your shit, you know? In Destiny 2, you die and you never lose your shit. That's just how it works. But you could lose your shit, or you could lose half your shit, or you could lose 25%. You could just like, that's how the game could work in certain modes or certain modifiers if you really wanted to. You know, like it's a perfectly fine possibility to add onto a mode. Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It's as an option, right? That's something you have agency over. You're not going to be forced into it. Imagine you load into a new Destiny annual expansion. You play the legendary campaign, and every time you die, just you're fully wiped from all your armor and weapons. It wouldn't even be that bad in Destiny. The funniest part is like if you died in Destiny and lost your stuff, like you would pull the exotics from collections, you'd pull the crafted weapons from the fucking Enclave. Like the funniest part about Destiny is like it wouldn't even be that bad even if you did lose anything. Like you think it would sound so bad when you hear it, you're like, oh no. But like it probably wouldn't be that bad. You would probably just load into half the things with like gear that you would throw away anyways. Like you get some random, you know, tier 4 SMG, you're like, all right, you know, fucking tier 4, what do I care, you know? So that's probably what you would do, and you wouldn't care if you died anyways. Like it really wouldn't be that bad. I feel like every time I bring up this idea though, people like, some people are so on board like that would have been sick in Destiny, like, and other people are like, hell no, I Destiny's already so grindy, why would I ever want to grind more? And the idea is like, again, agency. You don't have to do it. It would not be you're not going to be forced into it. Right? Just like you don't have to go play Gambit. I haven't played Gambit in God knows how long, right? It's there. I like that Gambit's there. It's cool, but I don't have to go play it. I ain't playing it. You think I'm gilding my dredging? God, no. So, same thing. Same idea.
And if you want to respond with, what about Arc Raiders? My response is simply sure, but good luck making that success sustainable, which we have still yet to see with an extraction shooter. But the timeline has come to an end, detectives, and we have gathered more than enough clues to crack this case, even as the body is not yet cold. I simply don't think Marathon will make a large enough comeback with its player base, or make enough changes to warrant a newer or bigger audience, especially not enough to keep Bungie alive on its own. But in case you missed any of the clues along the way, why did Marathon find itself on the Death of a Game series? A series that has always covered more than just literal death, since death doesn't just have one definition, remember? A target market that doesn't really exist. An IP resurrection that doesn't fit the bill. The failure of Destiny put immense pressure on the game. Bungie's faltering as a company put even more pressure. Stolen art. Questionable game direction and focus. Although I have no personal connection to Marathon 2026 or the series itself, this video ending has given me quite the solemn feeling, unexpectedly, and I think that's because we are getting closer to a reality where Bungie might not exist in video game development. Although I have been one of those to point out how poor they have treated their fan base and business partners, over time, still, I'm a gamer and a consumer, and I've enjoyed their products and influence on gaming over the years. Marathon might very well mark the end for Bungie, and man, does it feel weird to go out on a game that was never destined to be anything more than niche. Thanks for watching, and let me know in the comments below your thoughts on Marathon in case I missed any of the reasons for its demise. Until the next case.
Alright. There it is. That was Death of a Game Marathon. Pretty good video. Pretty good breakdown. Let me know what you think about it down in the comment section below. Some guy in the chat, Austin, wait. Austin, you have too much hate for the controller gameplay. Every comment you put in the chat today, you're hating on the controllers. He said, still controller sloppy gameplay is killing it on the Steam charts. No PC player is going to put up with that level of imbalance. I don't know if people care that much. Austin, #1 controller hater in the chat. These controllers, they're ruining our damn games. Someone killed Austin with a fucking... someone killed Austin with a controller in Trials last weekend, and he just wasn't having it. He wasn't having it. All right, I gotta head out, chat. That's a wrap for me tonight. Thank you for the follows. Thank you for the subs, the bits, the donations. Let me see. I missed a few of them. Oh my God, Noodles, Nether. Thank you for the bits. Appreciate that. All right, we gotta delete 10 things as we head out. I said we're deleting 5 items for every sub we get until the vault is cleaned. Someone said PC gamers shit on controllers. Pete Parsons, we want him back. That is the most insane comment ever. What the actual hell? I want to go bleach my eyeballs after reading that comment. Are you kidding me right now? All right, we're deleting 10 things. Appreciate the subs. Actually, we got Patrick with the 440 jewels as well. Thank you, Patrick Carino. Look, the input wars in the chat, they can stop. If you hate controller players that much, you know what? You might just have to go play CSGO. That's your only option, I guess. Here we go. Oh my God, we're losing the spare rations with slide shot Eye of the Storm. No, that hurts. A better dose. That's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. All right, 15. We got a long ways to go. A lot of this is slop stuff just got thrown in the vault. But each day we're going to be deleting more. So come by the stream tomorrow. I'll see you there. Thanks for watching, everybody. I appreciate you. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Thanks for watching. Thanks for hanging out. Appreciate y'all. Happy to have you here. Thanks for chatting it up with me today, watching the videos and talking and hanging out.